Happy Draftmas Eve, everybody. Got to give a tip of the cap to Clinton Bonner from the Seahawks Pod for getting me in touch with that phrase. Tonight we're just going to have some fun. We're just gonna give ourselves a little bit of a break. I know I stepped away for the last couple of days to kind of catch my breath and just sort of detach for a moment after months and months and months of living with this draft, day in, day out, sleeping, waking. And we're going to watch draft day together. Now, I've never done one of these live watch parties before, other than when Dana O'Gorman and I were on the PFN app and we would do live watch parties during games. But I think I've got it pretty dialed in and figured out. So I've got some rules in place so that we can all be synced up, watch it at the same time. I think I've got some allowances for people who join later. I'm going to have a special guest joining us about halfway through the movie. We're going to dive into some of the technical aspects of it and talk about how realistic or not realistic it is throughout the movie. But look, this is the Armageddon of sports movies. That's how I put it. It's a guilty pleasure. It's ridiculous for the most part. Some of the acting is questionable at best, but some of it's pretty good. The casting is fantastic. And then just some of the football stuff. So I can't wait to get your comments. We'll just comment as we go along. Obviously, I can't show the movie on the screen while we're watching it together. I'll get shut down for copyright issues. So we're watching it off screen. But let me run the intro. Then we'll come back. We'll sync it up. We'll go over how this is going to work. This is Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Hopefully you've got some snacks, popcorn, whatever. If I get really hungry, my fridge is almost arm's length away. I can step over and get it. Your favorite beverage, if you would. So this movie came out in 2011. No. Hold on. Did I get that wrong? Well, I'll look that up as we go along. We'll look up like Rotten Tomatoes ratings and things like that as we go through this thing. If you would, before we get started, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you get notified of all future episodes, because obviously with the draft starting tomorrow at 5:00 Pacific time, I'll be doing live draft parties, live watch parties like this all throughout the draft on both days, day one and day two. I'm going to unveil tonight the lineup of guests that I have for night one and also night two. We can talk about some newsy things as we go along. I'm going to give a little bit of time here for people to catch up to us, and so we can get as many people as possible that start it at the same time. But here's what we're going to do, first of all. So first, if you're looking for it, it's on Netflix, and that's the beautiful thing about it this year. I don't ever remember it being on Netflix. I know the last couple of years it has been on, you've had to pay to rent it, like $3.99 or whatever, on Prime. But it's become an annual tradition. I watch it during draft week. Actually, last year, got my girlfriend to watch it with me, and it's not really her thing, but she humored me and she watched it. And I do think that it's a movie that has some aspects to it that has a wider appeal outside of just football. But anyway, find Draft Day on Netflix and start it. And you get about a minute in, you get all of the different, like the 3 or 4 production studios that are associated with the film have to run their little graphics and their little intro with dramatic music. But get to where you see the Summit Entertainment Presents logo. It's only on screen for about 3 or 4 seconds. So if you just pause it there, I want everyone to get to the Summit Entertainment Presents screen and pause it there. And then when we all start together at the same time, we should be within a couple of seconds of each other and we can follow along together. And then at a couple of different points, I'd say maybe every 15 to 20 minutes, I'll call for everyone to pause it again. And then that will allow people joining late to catch up to us and find the spot where we're at. And then certainly when my special guest jumps in tonight, in about an hour, about 8:30 Pacific time, he's got another obligation that he's got to take care of. And then he'll be joining us and we can go through it together. I do have the Rich Hill trade chart pulled up. I've always wanted to do this, and I never have. And so when it gets to the part, well, there's a couple different parts, obviously. If you haven't watched the movie, I don't want to give you spoilers. And first of all, in the comments, let me know if this is the first time you've ever watched this movie, or if this is kind of an annual guilty pleasure for you as well. There's a couple of different times where obviously some trades happen. It's a big part of the story. And I just want to see kind of how it looks on the trade chart. We won't be able to be exact because we're talking about so many future picks. But I remember thinking when I first saw the movie that all of the scenarios were pretty implausible, but I'm not so sure. So we'll look into that as well. And then, yeah, as we go throughout the movie, we'll pause and we'll keep updating it, right? And I'll just kind of verbalize like where we are in the movie in case someone joins while it's going, and they can kind of try and speed up and get to where we are. So, again, this is the first time I've done this. This isn't like the draft where there's things to talk about all the way through. So I've got my monitor in this ear, so I can hear like when my guest joins, and I can hear that audio. I've got my AirPod over here. I've got the movie queued up on my laptop, my MacBook over here. So I've got a bunch of stuff going on at the same time. So there will be times where we're just kind of silent, and then I'll be responding to your comments, and we can just kind of type things over there. Let's take a quick little roll call and kind of see who's here. Kick Up, by the way, kudos to you. You were in here like an hour ago, all rocking and rolling and queued up and ready to go. Kato Kalin has it queued up. Dogzilla Monster is here. I'd be disappointed if he wasn't. Blake reminding everybody it is on Netflix this year, which is great. You don't have to pay a rental fee to get into it. Okay, what's going on? One of the cats I lost my monitor there for a second. One of my cats stepped on one of the JSD said, LFG, Dan, let's do this. Just let me know when to start. We will do that. Blake says zesty beverages. I will grab a beverage here in a minute that I didn't stop and grab anything. I don't have a lot on hand, but I have something and I have to drink it because it would be a waste not to. But it's one of the most horrific things I've ever tried to choke down. And so I'm going to call them out on it in a little bit. It's a big, huge national brand too. So that'll be fun. And let's see who else we have here. 2014. Yeah, that's right. Because I remember looking it up today and thinking it's been 11 years. It's crazy. Got me some Doritos and a Doritos for JSD. I had a big breakfast today, which is really unusual for me, especially in a work day. So I haven't been that hungry. I may dive into I have a frozen Totino's pizza I could throw in the air fryer, and I've got some donuts. Maybe I'll whip out some donuts. Let's see. All right. So we've got over 100 watching right now. Okay. And we've got some things that we can react to as we go too. Tasha says, this is one of my favorite sports movies. I watch it as regularly as a guilty little pleasure. Again, if you're just joining me, I just thought of this. I've never come up with this analogy before until tonight, but one of my all-time guilty pleasures just in, all of Hollywood and in any movie genre is Armageddon. It's so cheesy and it's so corny, but it gets me every time. There's a couple of scenes that make me tear up every time. It's so ridiculous that it's entertaining and it's fun. And I kind of feel like that's what this movie is. And so this is the Armageddon of sports movies. Also, you put Kevin Costner in a sports movie, I'm watching it, and probably multiple times. It's in prospect terms, Kevin Costner in a sports movie raises the floor of that movie. Can't really go wrong with it, even if the script isn't all that great. All right. Motive says second time seeing it. JSD first timer. This is going to be fun. I'm glad there's some first times in there. Blake never seen it. Somebody throwing some reality in here. JSD Seahawks are 24 hours away of knowing who we pick. That's kind of what makes it so fun, right? Dominic Scott says, got me ready for Bo. Yeah. I think the other thing about this movie that makes it fun is the Seahawks are prominently featured, right? That's another thing. Kevin Costner plus Seahawks being in it. It's a lot of fun. Also, there's some really cool visual things about how they shot it. All right. Are you guys ready? I'm going to do a countdown. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. And in full on Lethal Weapon style, let's all understand that on 1, we're going to hit it. Okay. If you're just joining, again, get to the Summit Entertainment Presents. In fact, here, let me do this. I don't think I'll get nailed for copyright. This is what you're looking for right there. That screen. Summit Entertainment Presents. Get off of there. Okay. Get there. And then we're going to go 3, 2, 1. And on 1, we're going to hit play. Okay. 3, 2, 1. And here we go. Should say in association with Odd Lot Entertainment, Montecito Picture Company. And now it opens up on a scene of Times Square. Welcome to primetime. The draft. They actually shot this at the 2013 draft. And so a lot of these scenes were shot with everybody there, all the fans in attendance and everything. And they would take breaks in between some of the action and go, okay, we're going to shoot this scene now. And that's how they ended up with a lot of this. Okay, my audio is messed up again here on the... Okay, now I got it in my AirPod. Chris Berman's voice. I mean, that's the draft, right? It's not a draft without Chris Berman's voice. It's unfortunate that he's not the key guy anymore. The fact that they got the league and ESPN to sign off and sign on for this is what makes it so great. If you had done this movie with not the NFL brand, look at that. There's the Space Needle. Absolutely gorgeous. I miss home. Why do I keep losing my AirPod? There we go. Oh, there's Lumen Field, home of the Seahawks. Gorgeous. 12:40 until the draft begins. It's almost, they're kind of doing what we're doing.
Sir.
Why is this happening?
He's waiting in his office. What time is it? 4:15. What are we going to do with it? Well, we've gone over this a lot. Really nervous about trading away the top pick. Might be worth it if someone's willing to give us their weight and go to get it. What the Rams get when they traded away?
So my AirPod kept disconnecting, guys, so I have to actually listen to the audio on the laptop. Is that causing any feedback for anybody or any weird audio? It shouldn't really be. My mic's pretty directional. That line. We don't want the city of Seattle calling for our heads because we didn't take Bo Callahan. Could you just substitute offensive line for that line? It's the Reverend from Waiting. Is the owner of the Seahawks. Home of the Browns. Oh, God. I miss John Gruden on draft night. Bo Callahan, best prospect since Andrew Luck.
He's a legend in Cleveland. He died last week. This kid, Ray Jennings, Heisman Trophy finalist his senior year, 2,159 combined yards, running the ball, catching the ball, 22 touchdowns. He's looking to take it to the house. The only downfall is this guy.
Here we go. Mike, if you know, you know, right?
In the hospital, but guess what? He was a model citizen of his day. And you guys know me. I'm all about value. And this kid's number 2 on my board. And when I look at that incident, I kind of say, look.
If you haven't watched the movie before, remember this scene. He writes himself a little note on that yellow piece of paper and tucks it in his pocket. literally tuck that scene away. It's huge later on in the movie.
You look nice.
You gonna say anything to me? Anything at all?
Well, it's big. It's a pretty big thing we're talking about here.
There's some Bull Durham parallels in this movie in how it's a sports movie, but they also obviously weave a relationship and a love story into it too, right? This comment's funny. The Seahawks would never draft a quarterback if there were character or, work ethic or commitment issues. Bo Callahan would not be a tilt the room guy, would not be on Schneider's draft board. With pitchforks and hanging in effigy. You said it was the first time watching the movie. Have you seen that scene? Ooh, look at this. Bo Callahan's Josh Rosen. Or take your pick. Jake Locker. Right? I think Locker might be a better analogy because Locker was just so physically talented, even more so than Rosen. All right, here's the Seahawks GM calling Sonny Weaver, trying to work a deal. I should have made pancakes tonight.
Consider a trade. I consider the right one.
Mike.
Jesus, Tom, at least act like you called me. What do you want for it? I want your first pick this year, your first rounder next year, and your third rounder the year after that. Ouch. Ouch. No thanks. I know it sounds like you're trying to take advantage of me. I would never do that. Just have a pick that you want. A running back in the rap sheet? You don't know who I'm picking, 7, Tom. I'm not going to.
7-1. That's actually a pretty realistic trade.
You should. Your farm sucks. Pick number 1. Get Bo Callahan.
Right? It was for a third this year and a first next year?
You talking about Brian Drew? Jesus, you're hilarious.
Or was it for the next two?
I have the golden ticket, Sonny. If I give it to you, you get to say football.
11 years later, and Cleveland still hasn't found their quarterback.
Enjoy your pancakes, Tom.
I mean, the Browns made all the sense in the world to be the stooge in this movie from that standpoint because they've been desperate for a quarterback for how long? 11 years later, it hasn't changed. This would be good. I would, if I got the opportunity, I would ask Schneider if he's ever seen the movie because he loves cheesy movies. He's always quoting them. He just quoted Step Brothers the other day in his press conference, right? Oh, old school Seahawk highlights.
Go and move to Baltimore, go there and win. That was so painful for the town, and then the new expansion franchise having to come back in. One of the amazing things to me is that in the midst of all of this losing, people are still hopeful. Yeah. That eventually this is going to be our year. Maybe to a fault with the hope, but that's really all we have because this is a sports town. And I want Sonny Weaver to know. Sonny, I hope you're listening. You better be. Can you please do something tonight to turn this thing around? Otherwise, you will be gone. Hello? Good morning, Mr. Sonny Weaver Jr.
Ah, I think one of you said this in the comments, but rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman.
Sorry if I called it. That's all right. It doesn't matter. Vontae, the draft, that doesn't start until late. Where are you, New York? No.
Yeah, super unrealistic scenario number one. A player calling a general manager on draft day to try to convince him to draft him. Like that would not happen.
So, who you pick? Five, you gotta take a light and quick little linebacker to convert the gaps in 3-4. Total
Also, when we watch these highlights here, let's talk about Vontae Mack. Like he thinks he's going to go top 10. Like he's stiff. You know, I think he has tight hips. I don't see a lot of bend there as a pass rusher. I'd be concerned about him in coverage with that frame and tightness. Definitely not a modern inside linebacker. See? All he cares about is money. Would not be on the Seahawks draft board. Would not. Not all about ball, right?
I appreciate that, Vontae. I really do. But I gotta go. 18, then I got tagged.
Hangs up on him. One thing I like about this movie, they do some really unique, and I think at the time it was kind of revolutionary, some of the ways that they transition from one scene to the next, where they don't just slide a new scene in, but they kind of, you'll see when I see an example of it, where they sort of cross timelines. Some really cool video transitions. Hey, it's oh God. It's Sergeant Jeffords from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. See, now this, very realistic, right? A GM calling a prospect at the last minute. He's got an issue off the field, just wants to ask him one more time, right? Schneider has told stories about before where they like call and check in on certain prospects, make sure they know where they are that day. Just kind of see what their mindset is that day. Even 11 years ago, thinking about taking a running back and or a middle linebacker with the 7th pick overall, horrible positional value. Fire Sonny. You guys recognize the actor playing the running back there? Playing Ray Jennings? There it is. Yep. Ding, ding, ding. Arian Foster gets it correct. Here we go.
Kids waited an hour to take it. It's exactly 50 feet from the end of the slide right into the pool. Huge splash. Anybody within shouting distance would have gotten completely soaked.
I think this is a very realistic part of the storyline too, although there's some things later that are pretty crazy. A meddling owner, especially in Cleveland, but we've seen it in other places too. He doesn't give a crap about the roster as a whole. He wants a splash. He wants Sonny to trade up to take Bo Callahan.
Let's talk about the draft. What do we need?
Is Sonny Weaver Joe Shane? Yeah, Dominic, it really did. Players, coaches, broadcasters, like the fact, like I said earlier, the fact they got all of ESPN to sign up for this thing. Just the fact Hollywood greenlit a movie about the draft. It's kind of the Moneyball equivalent or the football equivalent of Moneyball, where when the script was written, there was probably some real questions with some of the studios that looked at it as to whether there would be a mass appeal to it. It's about the draft. This is for nerds. But then you get Kevin Costner and Jennifer Garner in it and get the league to sign off so that, you know, you can actually use the brand. Different story.
Well, Anthony, you're the owner. You can change the helmets if you want. Look, you just got to let me do my job. I mean, I like Vontae Mack. He's special. He's different.
could transform our defense even as a rookie. Defense doesn't make us play.
The closed captions, at least from my end, must have been done by a Canadian company, maybe, or an English company, because they spelled defense with a C. Shout out to our football fans and friends across the pond. Rob Staten and Matty Brown would appreciate that. Josh and Mitch.
This guy comes 2 years after supposedly saving San Francisco and general manages us right to a losing season. Then you follow that up the next season by firing his own father.
That talk radio vibe right there, that's realistic as hell. Right? Schneider hears that crap all the time. Oh, man. Oh, the VMAC. Gorgeous. The 12 flag.
I really thought I could get Sonny Weaver, but I mean, he just lost his whole man.
That's not the right view out that window, though. The VMAC's only one building, and they're making it look like it's in the background. That's weird. Must be like CGI.
Sonny, can I help you?
All right, here comes the trade.
Okay, I'm ready to do this, Tom. Our next 2 number 1 picks, 3rd rounder, your pick today. Correction. Next 3, 1st round picks. What? You heard me. You want me to give you the Cleveland Browns 1st round picks for the next 3 years? That's right. Well, that's insane, Tom. That wasn't your offer.
But I changed my offer. And we lived in a different world we did a couple hours ago. I made you a fair offer. You told me to enjoy my pancakes.
You think I'm going to give you my next 3 number 1 picks?
You're panicking, Sonny, and I intend to take advantage of that.
I'm not panicking. Your next 3 1st round picks. Yes or no?
So is he saying, because this gets lost in translation a lot. When he says next 3, he means this year plus 2, right? Move from 7 to 1 and add the next 2. Or is he talking about 4 first-round picks? That would be ridiculous. To go from 7 to 1, it's almost impossible to figure out on the trade chart, but it's not that far off for a generational quarterback prospect like Bo Callahan. It'd be interesting to find a comp. Maybe if any of you could do that out there, like what Carolina pay to move up to 1? Like, has anyone moved from 7 to 1 before? The Trey Lance deal, they moved up to 3, right? And they gave up 2 future firsts. Hey, Mike, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, Zach says this in the next 2. It's really not that unrealistic. My biggest problem with this movie, 2, and I'll share the first one now. I think Dennis Leary does a terrible job of playing this head coach, or the role was written horribly. I don't buy him as an NFL head coach at all. And also the head coach is in the draft room trying to convince the scouts and the staff on who to take. Like he's undercutting the GM. That wouldn't fly.
What are you doing, Sonny?
Okay.
4.
I love this reaction.
Number 1 pick.
Also, a GM's never going to make a move like that without talking to his scouting director and the rest of his scouts and his staff and everything else. But I can live with that one.
He's going to fill us up with a salary cap.
Moving from 7 to 1.
Surprise reveal there, right? His girlfriend is the salary cap manager.
$5.5 million in signing bonus.
You have that?
We can make it work.
Pretty good news. Huh? Number 1 pick.
Now, maybe my biggest pet peeve with this movie is coming up in a minute. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Jerry Jones would.
What did we give up?
A number 1 pick this year.
And
1st round pick next year.
okay, well that's a lot, but you get a chance to play like Callahan.
And the year after that.
It's actually a fair trade.
We gave up 3
You know, as you pointed out, as Big Brother Reject, Chicago went from 9-1 for 2 firsts and DJ Moore.
30 million. Excuse me? 30 million. That's what you're paying me to coach this team for the next 6 years. Did it cross your mind? Did you think it might be maybe important to discuss this decision with me first? No. It's my call. As you can infer from Coach Penn's reaction, I just put all our asses on the line. The kid, I think we all agree, is pretty good. Until about 10 minutes ago, I don't think any of us thought this was possible, and I seriously doubt that we have looked at him the way we might.
Here comes my biggest pet peeve.
My guys, that's on me. Now that's changed. So if we go ahead with this, we pick him and find out tomorrow that he has got knee problems, he's got bedwetting problems, or he's got goddamn OCD, we're all going to be fired with people. Hello? Am I on the big phone? Yes, Anthony, you're on the big phone. And can everybody hear me? Sonny, I'd like to congratulate you. I asked you to make a splash, and you did. Is everybody still there? Anthony, how do you already know about this? Can I tell you, my boy, it's good to be the owner. I'm about to board my plane. I'm heading for New York. You're going to the draft? No, I'm going to see Spider-Man turn off the dark. Of course I'm going to the draft. We've got both.
It's an oddly specific reference.
Is that it?
Spider-Man.
Good. Anthony, Sonny, my assistant Heather just arrived from the equipment manager. I had a jersey made up for the young man. I'm going to hand it to him myself personally when his name is announced. Bo Callahan's going to be the son I never had. Anthony, you already have a son.
Bo Callahan's going to be the son I never had. What a cheeseball line.
Well, that's settled. It may be. We're still going to have to take another look at this kid and everything there is to know about it before I can feel good about what we just risked.
I think that's my biggest pet peeve. I don't care if you're sitting at 7 and you think this guy's a lock at number 1. You haven't done enough work on him when you set your draft board to know now they got to go back and take another look. So one of my favorite little roles in this movie is this kid, the intern.
This is Rick. He's a new intern.
Rick.
Yeah, met before.
If you haven't watched the movie before, it's buckle up. It's
I need Keith and Jeremy for salary calculations.
pretty funny.
I have Adam Schefter from ESPN on the line. He heard a rumor.
Tell Schefter to stick his rumor up.
Pretending.
Schefter would probably have Sonny Weaver's actual direct phone number, don't you think?
Yes, sir. And
Maybe not.
I don't want to.
Maybe not. Weaver's old school.
thank you, Rick.
He doesn't like the press, you can tell.
Listen, I know you're mad.
I'm not mad.
And I'm sorry about the
I'm
thing.
not mad. I understand the situation. Whatever it is that you and I have, you've been very clear that it
What
wasn't.
are you talking about? I haven't been clear about anything.
Is there any better Kevin Costner than pissed off Kevin Costner? Like irritated, pissed off Kevin Costner? Is that when he's at his best? Right? Yellowstone, Bull Durham.
So, what did you have to give up for the number 1 pick?
First round pick for the next 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
I don't want to give too much away.
Who the hell is this? This is our new intern, Rick.
But he has a redemption arc in the movie.
Suddenly everything with everyone is
I
painful.
believe that's his natural state. It is. He's always kind of irritated. But that kind of tone, it's the classic mound meeting scene from Bull Durham where he walks back to the plate. He's like, "Have some fun, God damn it! Baseball's fun."
Sir Weaver,
What?
Chris Crawford is on line 3.
Crawford, that's my favorite super agent. I'm living a dream, Sonny.
Oh my God!
Dreaming of a magical wonderland called Cleveland.
How could I forget? I forgot Diddy was in this thing. Oh, that didn't age well, did it? He would not be in a sequel.
Loves the dog pound. Did I mention that Bo loves playing in the cold weather?
Hey, did one of you mentioned I see up earlier in the comments? Somebody asked me how I felt about Brady Russell moving to fullback full time. Is that just something you're speculating on, or here it is? What do you all think of Brady Russell moving tight end to full time fullback? Is that something you heard? I didn't hear anything today, or is that just speculation? I think we've all speculated for a while that because he's done a bit of it before, but he kind of fits that mold. It would make sense. Let's see.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Got a question for you, Bo.
Anything, Mr. Weaver, fire away.
How important is winning to you?
Oh, see, Mike Kosicki, I can't put that comment up. That would give way too much away.
It matters, but that's the thing I still don't know. How important is winning to you?
Okay.
Winning is everything, sir.
Yeah, I like that move. I wonder if that means they're not going to sign Adam Prentice, though.
I suppose they do, sir.
I think that makes a lot of sense for Brady Russell. And you know what it does? I already thought tight end was a need, and they were absolutely going to draft a tight end out of this class. Now they for sure are. And it probably, maybe it makes them less likely,
Thank Chris for me. Talk to you
might
later.
make him less likely to draft like a Jalen Conyers, who would kind of be in that role too. You certainly could and let him battle it out, but maybe they take a little bit more of a traditional two-way tight end. That's cool. Blake, I like that a lot. I like Brady Russell, good special teams guy too. He'd make a lot of sense in that role.
Alex,
And I'm sure he agreed to it right away because it almost guarantees him a roster spot if they don't bring in someone else significant, which
my mom,
Adam Prentice. He was a fullback last year for Kubiak. Played 25% of the snaps. He's still just 27 years old, and he visited the Seahawks last week. I just assumed they'd sign him, and they still might.
Agent just called. Browns trade for number 1. Sorry, Cleve. You get Bo.
This is so dumb with the head coach lighting the scouting reports on fire. It's so dumb.
I'm sorry, Sonny. Is this a bad time?
I gotta go.
This is the draft analysis we've all been working on for the last 2 weeks.
Here comes the intern. Oh.
Can I get you gentlemen some coffee?
Love some. Light and sweet, honey. Thanks.
Man, I'm getting you idiots out there.
I like her.
Was this movie PG or PG-13? I wish it was R. Like that would make it more real. It would have made it more realistic. There would for sure be so much profanity in this movie.
You know, my wife loved living in Dallas, Sonny. It's a rich town full of fancy people, and she likes that kind of thing. So she wasn't exactly thrilled when I said, "Hey, baby, pack your bags. We're moving."
Some of these comments you guys are giving me, I can't put them up. I don't want to spoil things for.
It's really not, which is okay by me. But I dragged my pretty wife to this town because this city deserves a championship, and I'm the.
If Jalen Milroe gets to 50 or 52, I think he'll absolutely be in play. I think the Seahawks will have a good grade on him at that point.
There's me doing my job, you doing yours. Your job is to coach the team I give you. They do it differently.
Yeah, they do. They win a lot. I had my choice of teams to coach, Sonny, and I chose this team. Okay, I chose to coach.
If they had made this head coaching role just a little bit more realistic, a little bit better, like they should have got, what's his name?
I'm sorry, is that supposed to be?
I'm blanking on the actor that played. I mean, it'd be too. But if Kevin Costner could play the same role in every sports movie, why can't the guy that played Coach Taylor in Friday Night Lights, right? Chandler. Now I can't remember his name. I have a hard time thinking of stuff when I'm watching something else. But I submit that this movie would be 20% better if they had cast someone else in the head coaching role and written better dialogue for him.
Sonny Weaver Jr.
Vontae?
Disappointed you, Mr. Weaver. Let me tell you something, Vontae, and I don't have a lot of time, so I want you to listen to me carefully, all right? Are you listening?
Yeah.
Don't Twitter.
It's one of the best lines in the movie.
Delete your profile.
Don't Twitter, for the love of Jesus. Stop.
I don't know why you care what I do. GM in the league has now read your tweet or whatever they call them. And they've all made a mental note that Vontae Mack, however prodigiously talented, is a guy who likes to talk. Right?
Oh, no. I'm thinking of the TV show. Gosh dang it. Kyle Chandler, right? Is that his name? The guy who plays Coach Taylor on the TV show. Would have been fantastic. Yeah, Kyle Chandler. There it is. There we go. Thrill House. Blake jumped up.
What do you know?
Listen closely. This is key.
I know we got sacked 12 times last year.
No, it was 11. It was 11 times.
Yeah, well, 4 over mine in one game.
Yeah, I remember. I saw your highlight reel. I also remember that he beat.
Is that the worst line in the movie? I saw your highlight reel.
Watch it. Watch it. Sack
The general manager of the Cleveland Browns, who has the 7th pick in the draft, is scouting players based on a highlight reel. He's not watching all 22. Worst line in the movie, right? It's in the running. I saw your highlight reel. God, that's terrible. Oh, and this strength coach.
No, what about him? Came in here yesterday, did a little workout. Guess how much he squatted? He was supposed to be squatting 400. 4 bills. I know. What's even more impressive is his arm. Star wide receiver Andre Bell has been telling me about those secret workouts they've been doing together. You know about those? Yeah. Yeah, well, Andre thinks
Are any of you in here
I didn't believe it.
that joined late and haven't been able to catch up with where we are?
That's 250.
I just wonder if maybe if enough of you are, then we can pause it, because we've got another 15 minutes or so until our special guest joins us. I mean, if they really wanted to go for star power, you know who would have been great in the head coach's role? But again, still would have needed better dialogue. But I was just kind of thinking about, like, who are some actors who are really into football? Like, how about McConaughey? What if they did a sequel? What's up, Charlie? Merry Draftmas. Draftmas Eve. It's Draftmas Eve.
Somebody's got to have something.
He doesn't speak French real good. He got a C-.
And he used to bite his fingernail. Then wait for it. Now he doesn't anymore.
So, Sonny, really, how many chicks do you think a guy like that sleeps with per week on average? We were thinking like 20 minimum.
I say 10. That's 1.5 per day, which makes sense. 2.5 sounds exorbitant.
Listen, speaking as a former college quarterback myself, division, I say he averages like 3 per day, right? That's 1 in the morning.
I'm trying very hard not to completely lose my shit on all 3 of you right now. But you're not making it.
Also, how much of a tightwad is that owner? Like, his entire scouting and coaching staff is like 10 people, or either that or the all the assistant coaches are not allowed in the draft room. Like, where's the offensive coordinator? Where's the D coordinator? Where are the position coaches? Where's the quarterback coach? Wouldn't your offensive coordinator, quarterback coach be in on these conversations? Yeah, it might not be the casting as much as just the dialogue is so bad. The way they make him play, like, he's so cocky and he knows everything and he's got some chip on his shoulder. Like, That wouldn't fly in the modern NFL unless they were trying to pattern it after Josh McDaniel. Maybe it's not that far off.
Find out what Bo Callahan something is and figure out if it matters or not. All right? Figure out if it's something.
Here's a good one.
Roll it, Sonny. All right, Sonny. Yo, who worked that way?
I haven't been home in 3 months. It's killing me seeing these scenes.
Hey, Sonny. What's up? Got a question for you, Tom. Straight up. Sure. Why'd you make the deal? What? This morning for Callahan, why did you make that deal? Same reason you did.
Oh, is this when he looks out the window? Watch this, you guys. If you haven't seen it before, this is Seahawks fans not happy about the Seahawks moving from 1 to 7. Tom must go, idiot, boo. Not the most realistic.
Hey, I got your Bo Callahan scouting reports.
Dad, come here. Does that look like
You think Field of Dreams is cringeworthy? It's one of my all-timers, man. The scene at the end where he has a catch with his dad just gets me every time. You have to detach yourself from reality and accept that it's a ghost movie, right? It's a ghost story. That's a great movie. Yep, there's the pitchforks.
seeing you all day, walk the other way, watching you drive away this morning? It's killing me. Look, I know I've disappointed you. Maybe that's not even strong enough word. I didn't handle it. I didn't have the right words that you needed to hear.
Look, Sonny, well, you don't need to do
Let
this.
me finish. You're supposed to step up in the middle of everything that's going on. I didn't get it right. I didn't get all gooey. I didn't jump up and want to know what color to paint the bedroom, blue or pink. And I wish I was one of those kind of guys who know how to make the wallpaper line up. The Home Depot dads are the ear types that make the rest of us look like assholes.
Those guys are not the reason you look like an asshole. I don't know how to pack a lunch. I've never changed today, but I've got to help me. The one thing I do understand, Sonny, is football. That's me. I'm action-oriented. I'm passionate.
This closet gets a lot of action in this movie.
I am football. And more than you, I wasn't born into this game.
Hey, Osiris, if you need to catch up, we'll be pausing here in just a little bit so everybody can kind of re-sync up.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I can come back. I'm gonna come back.
What do you need, Rick?
Brian Drew just trashed your office. I told him you were busy, and he told me to have intercourse with my mother.
Have intercourse with my mother.
She passed away, so I didn't tell him that. Anyway, he got really mad.
Oh, I love Rick. I'm not so sure that this is unrealistic. Like a quarterback that thinks he's going to be the starter and he's gone through, knee rehab and everything else. Come in and throw some things around in the GM's office. I could see that.
Did you just trash my office?
Yeah, I'm upset.
Do you think Geno Smith trashed John Schneider's office before he demanded to be traded? Well, he didn't demand to be traded, but you know what I mean.
No, Drew, I drafted. I may have been in San Francisco. My dad wasn't even looking at you until I told him to. Yeah, when your knee crapped out and no one wanted you, I still extended the contract. I think I even gave you a raise.
Tom, I'd put the over under on total trades made at like 2.5, and I think I would take the over. I would say 3 is a realistic number. Daniel Jeremiah today in his final mock had the Seahawks trading all the way out of the first round. And he said it's based on things that he's hearing that Seattle would like to get out of the first round. I took so much shit last week when I put that Giants scenario up in a full video. But Jeremiah's saying it, so must be plausible, right? This is a kind of cool idea, Dominic, is you could do a sequel, but follow a couple of different players from their perspective, like what they go through to, go through the draft and the meat market kind of aspect of it. And you could have a guy that's projected at the top. You could have a middle round guy. You could have a guy trying to decide between whether to take NIL money and stay in school or go, like Cam Ward last year. And then you could have another guy just fighting to be drafted. I think that'd be a really cool aspect as a sequel. Is this true? Tyler Lockett to the Titans?
Did you hear me, Rick? I heard you, yeah. You think Ali heard me? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, 3 minutes ago. Tyler Lockett, excited to be a Tennessee Titan. Super thankful and grateful. Let's get it. God, you get all the glory. That's great. That's great. Really, really happy for Tyler. Cool situation. Gets to catch passes from Cam Ward. Is this true? It only grossed $29 million bucks. That's just box office, though. It's probably done better than that in rentals, and it's probably, in fact, I would bet it's made. Wouldn't surprise me if it's made as much money since then in rentals.
Well, we're in the market for a QB, and now that you have number one, wanting a Brian Drews available.
See, super realistic phone call. Hey, if you're going to take Bo Callahan, can we ask about Brian Drew? And this is 2014, so the Chiefs didn't have Patrick Mahomes then.
His agent sent over tape of Drew working out during the offseason. We like what we see.
Why didn't we resign him, Tyler? Because they had to move on from a salary cap perspective. He's not a complete receiver anymore, and he wouldn't fit with the current wide receiver room. It was time. It was time, and it was the right move. I wouldn't call the bum Titans. They're a team with a new head coach. They're about to get a new quarterback. They have a new GM, right? Like, you don't know that they're bums.
Hey, Alec, how you doing?
No, I think this is great. It made a lot of sense. I thought it would have made sense for the Raiders too. Like, you're trying to set a culture, how to do things right. Yeah, Tyler Lockett. You can do a lot worse. Okay, here we go. $41 million gross. The budget was only 25. Costner must have taken a pay cut. Really wanted to do it. I would not buy into any of these rumors about Kenneth Walker being traded. Here's why. What team is going to give up value for a running back in the last year of his deal when it's a historically deep running back class, over 30 draftable grades at the running back position, when you can just draft one and have him on a fresh rookie contract? That makes no sense to me. I don't expect one of those guys to be traded. I could be wrong. There's some shit happening in that building right now. They're really trying to dial in this roster to the kind of football they want to play. It's just a bad timing if they want to move on from K9, because it's a good running back class. I would just draft one if I'm a team. I'm not giving anything up for him.
You don't think Callahan's legit?
I think Callahan might be the best prospect in the draft, but I hate quarterbacks.
The head coach trying to influence the GM's girlfriend.
Brian Drew can run my offense like a pro. So I'm trying to figure out why I gotta give away the future of the franchise and then sit around trying to teach some rookie. I don't know everything.
I don't know. Conversations like this probably happen all the time. Things that we're not privy to. There's things I've heard from, connections. There's things I've heard that have happened over the years that, and even from hearsay from, being around players at my former job, and things that I heard that I couldn't share with you ever, not on the show anyway. So I don't think that scene is unrealistic at all.
Bo Callahan, an only child of a homemaker. His father's a medical malpractice lawyer.
3 years left on his mortgage. The kid's pretty vanilla. Belonged to a few clubs in high school. Got a walk-on role at damn Yankees. On the honor roll from junior high through college. Kept his nose clean. He worked out. And, you know, he threw a football better than anybody in the great states of Washington and Wisconsin.
But
How do you know there's a but?
because you're an unoriginal bastard, brother. So go on.
But during his final year at Wisconsin, he had a big dinner for his 21st birthday at some restaurant. Locals find out.
I wouldn't want to trade back that far, Tom. If you're trading back that far, you better get a future first. Here's what I came up with in my show last week about the Giants after Diana Rossini reported that that the Giants weren't going to take a quarterback at 3 and want to trade up to get one. Jordan Schultz followed up with a report that they love. Brian Daboll loves Jackson Dart. Jonathan Jones from CBS also reiterated this report. So based on the Rich Hill trade chart anyway, here, let me get this comment out of here. 18-34 with the Giants would get one of their thirds and then a first rounder next year. Or they have a second, third, like in the 80s. You could do that, and it's a pretty close match. But for the quarterback tax, you could probably add on something else too. So you could play around with like their 2/3 and like a 2 or a 3 next year also.
Anything else?
You have the tapes. It's the real deal, Sonny.
I think this is good casting as the college head coach.
No offense. Look, I love Bo.
And also sticking up for his guy.
Cheerleaders love it. Fans love it.
Sticking up for his guy helps his program to have a guy taking number 1 overall, right?
Teammates went to his birthday party.
Are you kidding me with this?
Seems relevant.
You want to tear this kid down or what?
No, I just like your take on it. Find it odd that
This is something Schneider would look into. Like, this is absolutely something Schneider would follow up on. Like, why, if he heard that teammates didn't attend the quarterback's birthday party, red flag. He would absolutely be making some phone calls.
Boys have done nothing wrong. Decided not to take down any of the players' names because they didn't want to jam up a bunch of good kids for doing nothing.
I mean, you could say that, Black SpongeBob. But there's, when you connect dots, right, with things that you hear about the Seahawks wanting to trade down, Jeremiah has connections in the league. He's worked in front offices before. He says he's heard Seattle is considering moving out of the first round. Diana Rossini, Jonathan Jones, Jordan Schultz all say the Giants want to trade up, the Browns too, and they have just as much draft capital. They could do it too if you want to move up. And if you want to move up, you got to get in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. That's why it absolutely is plausible. There you go. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, I'd be a little concerned about Zabel making it to the second round, but in Jeremiah's final mock today, which is based on intel, things he's hearing from around the league, he had Zabel making it out of the first round.
Hey, Max. Hey, Sonny. Hope you're holding up. Got an offer for number 1. Yeah, well, I'm all ears.
Based on the charts, we are, SpongeBob.
Okay, here's what we got.
Also, this is a weaker draft class, so you're not going to get as much for moving back as you would in some other years.
That's 2 number 1s, a blue chip running back. I know who they are, Max. And you know it's a fair offer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm intrigued. Good. Let's make a deal. Boy, you got to give me some time. Time? Sonny, time's one thing neither one of us have. Make the deal. Give me an hour. We'll give you half that.
Sorry, I got to pay more attention to the movie. I was taking too many comments.
Got off the phone with Max.
What was the trade offer? This is dumb, though. A rookie head coach is going to call another team and get them to make a trade offer. Whew, man. He might get fired on draft day.
How about trying to do this? I can. And I will.
There you go. Yeah.
Then do it, Sonny.
You actually think I'm going to give up Bo Callahan for Taylor and Castillo? Maurice,
moves are, right?
I think there's some aspects of this movie that I used to think were less realistic, but the more I watch it,
Why do you think we need to do this? You burned up
maybe they aren't.
now you have the
Way more shit happens behind the scenes than we will ever know.
looks like Tarzan plays your play.
Oh, that's why I didn't see him, because he had him going that high. I think of all the prospects in this draft, Zabel's range of possible outcomes might be the widest.
You should at least seriously consider what I'm saying.
There is, but at the end of the day, 11 for a guard is super high. I know the Titans took Skoronski a couple of years ago, but if I'm the Niners, I'm taking Banks. Somebody that, Campbell, if he falls. Well, Campbell won't get to 11. I'm taking a guy that can play tackle too. They need tackle help. But who knows? Yeah, Brady knows what he's talking about. Finding trade partners is going to be tough. Although it sounds like some action is getting ready to happen at the top of the draft, just because lack of blue chip players, right? So it shouldn't be much longer before my special guest arrives. Should be here any minute. And when he does, we'll pause and we'll reset in case any of you are unsynced or have traded,
Hey, Anthony, how you doing in my life? You guys sure made today a lot more exciting.
yeah, Blake, it would be, but
It's all right. Good luck.
look, Sable reportedly has killed interviews with teams, so it wouldn't surprise me that much.
We can always talk.
There's a deal on the table.
You heard. What's the word on think?
Split. And wants me to do it.
But you don't?
Hey, if Zabel goes in the top 15, okay. Donovan Jackson,
All I get back
he'd be my next pivot.
for the guy that Malina brings in to replace me. I've been here 2 years, Al. 2 years.
Yeah, I get your point, Hazard, but that's just not how they operate. Ever since the Malik McDowell thing in 2017, they completely changed their grading system when it comes to character. They just will not take risks on anyone with a sniff of character issues, which is why they didn't take Jalen Carter.
It's finally supposed to be my season.
Some other names on that. Oh, by the way, when we get to the Vontae Mack thing later on, I put together my no matter what list. So I'll share that today. Some other guys that I don't even consider mocking to the Seahawks this year because of that. Mike Green, James Pierce, Braden Swinson, Luther Burden.
Remember the 89 Super Bowl?
49ers Bengals. Niners down by 3.
Ah, love this scene. The John Candy reference. Enjoy.
Yeah, but before the drive, Joe Montana's in the huddle. Right? And unbelievably, somehow spots the actor John Candy in the stands.
This is a true story.
Ask the guys in the huddle, hey, isn't that John Candy? Couldn't believe the balls on him. Be that calm in that game at that moment. His guys instantly relax.
Mm-hmm.
They march
93 yards.
93 yards. Lieutenant throws a little slant to Taylor.
I remember watching that Super Bowl. That's why I got goosebumps right now. Like, that was such a great moment.
Then we can stop a ticking clock. Great ones. Great ones always find.
He hasn't, Tom, but he's been telling us the entire offseason with his actions and his words that that's what's going to happen. I think this year's going to be different.
Still Callahan.
And then this one, I love this point from Zach. If you think they're going to take 3 offensive linemen early, or that they should, You're wrong.
All due respect, Sonny, that is bonehead. Maybe so, but we're back on Callahan. Do me a favor, let's put up the Wisconsin Ohio State division. Sure thing.
Here we go.
I've seen that footage like 2 million times. What are you hoping to find in it that we haven't seen already? Just double check it.
Here's another little technical aspect. And maybe they didn't have someone. I'll have to do some research, see if they had. Okay. No. They're using TV copy here. Right? They're not going to use TV. They're going to have all 22. You know, these medical shows, they always have doctors and surgeons on staff. Like, who consulted on this movie? Let's see if I can find. Let's pull up the draft day history. We'll talk about it a little bit when we have our halftime and pause.
Whatever, it's one play. It's down to Vontae's next sack. After the bull rush, that right tackle, Bo didn't have a chance. Man, I got to give it to the kid. He got a wicked first step. See what he does on the next play.
Speed kills. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. He's frantic.
Okay, the thing about rookie QBs, they get frantic when they think they're going to get hit. Although I got to give him credit for all those 2 plays. He was brilliant. He threw 4 TDs, including the last one to win it.
Take us down to that.
Yeah. Looking downfield, staying calm. Sonny, this guy's textbook. Man, this kid is strong. That's impressive.
That's a good throw. That was a great throw.
Take it back. Rewind that back to the start of the play. Just stop right here. What's missing? Fullback.
Okay, I found some good trivia about the production of the movie that we'll talk about a little bit.
No, not what I'm looking at. Try again.
Osiris asks, how long has all 22 been available? For coaches? Decades. Hasn't been available to the public like it is now.
You know,
But
Sonny, I think he got ejected. He got ejected from the game? For what?
Yeah, in the third quarter, after he stripped the ball from Callahan and scored that TD, gave the ball to a fan, right? He got flagged for it and went nuts, touched the refs, and they threw him out.
Oh, man. Let's see that.
Black SpongeBob talking about Donovan Ezeraku. Absolutely. I think he's going to have a solid grade on the Seahawks board. If they trade down, I think he's in play. He could be in play at 18. Not my choice. At 18. I'll show you my final mock draft in case you didn't see that episode in a minute.
That's it. There he goes. He's showing off. Can't do that in college. Can't hand the ball to some girl. It's not some girl. It's not some girl, guys. That's his sister. She died about 6 months later.
Who friggin' who? We ain't running an after-school special here. We're running a football team. His offense was ranked 28th in the league last year. I still need a run back.
Not taking a running back at 1, coach.
What can I say, Rich? I love being here. I love feeling the energy. And I love having a number 1 pick.
I hope that you would love having it because you sure gave up a ton to get it.
For the record, I didn't do anything. And ton is a relative word.
Ray Coy, I like it. Come on, just between 2 guys, forget the cameras. Who are you going to take? Number 1 overall.
Well, I think it would be unsportsmanlike. Spoil the surprise.
Anthony Molina not giving me anything.
Please.
No, not back in there.
Back in the closet.
Honestly,
closet plays a major role in this movie, man.
Jesus, I'm sorry. Trust security. Say one second, sweet. Set up surgery.
Oh,
Sonny,
if you haven't watched this movie before, you have no doubt heard references to this concept in this scene.
if you don't mind, I've got something for you, Bill.
Mike, I hear you, man.
Callahan story for you.
I'm sure I want to hear that.
Call the sequel Draft Day, Out of the Closet.
I'm pretty good with the last one.
Just talked to Jack Tate in Washington. He said when they found out they had the number 5 pick, first thing they did was send a copy of their playbook to all the guys they were interested in.
Right, we do the same thing.
No, they put a little special twist on it. They tape a $100 bill to the last page.
Why?
So when they're interviewing the guys and they ask them if they read the whole playbook, of course all of them are going to say yes. About half of them, they mention the money, but the other half don't. So when they tell them about the $100 bill, most of the guys get embarrassed. They get flustered. They mess up, but they didn't read the whole thing. But ask me what your boy Bo Callahan did.
You know, I really hate playing this game with you. All right, what did Bo Callahan do?
Neither.
He lied.
He said that he'd read it, and he didn't say anything.
So,
He didn't know about the $100 bill, Sonny. He lied.
Isn't this based on a true story with Jamarcus Russell?
Yes, but when they confront him about it, they tell him about the money, he lied again.
Or am I making that up?
He said something like, oh yeah, now I remember. Good one, guys.
Couldn't do that anymore, obviously, because it's all iPads now.
Then to have the balls.
But I feel like there's something that happened with Jamarcus Russell that was similar to that, where it's based on a true story.
The second strangest response he'd seen to the $100 bill thing. You know what the first was?
I'm putting them on the screen here, you guys. You guys are thinking along the wrong lines, kind of the lines I've been thinking. I like where your heads are at.
Put it in a card, and he wrote on the card, save this for when I win you the Super Bowl. Want to know who that kid was?
no.
It was Brian Drew.
Of course, it was Brian Drew.
It was Brian Drew.
We're going to pause this. My guest should be here any minute, Dogzilla. We're going to pause so you can sync up if you want to watch the rest of it with us. And yeah, we're still watching it. It's the whole point of the show. No, see, here's one of those video transitions I was talking about. It looks like he's walking in their room. It's really cool.
About Vontae Mack.
Why would you want to know?
Who cares why?
You thinking of picking him at 15?
He's got potential? No. Friend's a friend. What else do I need to know?
Well, he's a great kid.
Come on.
That's what I know.
Quit playing games. You didn't think he was going to fall in the second round, did you? Somebody's going to pick him, Sonny. Tell me why that shouldn't be me.
I never tell you how to do your job.
You find something with him?
I didn't say that.
You did not say that.
Good luck tonight.
Yeah, somebody tweeted today. BetMGM today tweeted, breaking. Sources say the NFL teams are losing faith in Colorado quarterback Shadur Sanders after finding out that none of his teammates went to his birthday party this year.
What does that mean?
Vontae, you're an inside linebacker, man. Like, positional value. Tangents. I gotta make that graphic.
Both of you, really?
You have a fire?
I do not need this today. I really don't.
You look terrible.
Thank you.
You really do.
Thank you, too.
I like how they did a day in the life, like it's just the one day. But if they did a sequel, kind of like some of the ideas we were kicking around earlier, like have a little bit more kind of behind the scenes throughout the process. You could have a player that like is facing allegations and things like that, but they're a good guy, and it's like some off the field stuff that's hurting his stock, but kind of showing his having to struggle and fight through the rumors and social media and all that.
Now you're saying you want to do all this now?
We have to do
Yeah, in case you guys joined us late, in case you missed it. So his dad used to coach the team, was a legendary coach. He passed away.
Is there an art exhibition you have to be at or something?
This isn't going to be a long affair. We just go out there, read the fair, dump the ashes.
No. Everything's fine. Ellie, this is my ex-wife, Angie.
Hello, hi. How you doing, Amy?
Allie, you know what's out.
Dogzilla, do you have to get into Xfinity? Can't you just go straight to Netflix?
Get us some coffee, will you, sweetie?
Tom, I don't agree with this because they've typically only carried 3 on the roster. So I think they'll carry 4 this year plus a fullback. I mean, there's your 5, I guess.
No, I'm serious. No.
I do think they'll draft a running back. In fact, I'll show you during our break. I'll show you my, if you didn't watch the hot takes episode that I did with Josh and Mitch. Oh, he just threw the kid's laptop. That's Rick, the intern. Pissed off Kevin Costner. I love it. I love it. Nick, it's because they're going to do a ceremony for his dad, who was the coach there, and they were close. There you go. But yeah, it's weird.
Whoever thought it meant that much to him? Being a simple practice field in his honor. Yeah,
I think they'll carry one. I think they'll carry 4 running backs, Charlie, and they could carry 4 tight ends and fewer wide receivers. Sometimes they carry 6 and 7 at times wide receivers on the initial 53, but Kubiak doesn't run as many 3 wide receiver sets. So you could have one kind of shift one roster spot from the wide receiver group to tight end.
I was here that day.
It was my mother. My mother. But don't get me wrong, I'm the one who fired him, but it was my mother who asked me to do it.
It's interesting they have him in a suit. How many GMs wear suits? Like I think about, like, obviously Schneider's pretty casual. He'd be in a polo, or maybe are they going to wear the mechanic shirts again this year? Like Les Snead would be in a polo. John Lynch wears a suit a lot, doesn't he? Would he wear a suit on draft day? I've seen other guys do it. I think I've seen Ryan Poles in a suit. So it's not all that unusual.
So what do you do?
God, I can't wait for tomorrow night, you guys. Probably be wrapping up right about now, right?
Yeah, there's already so many.
I'll show you during our halftime break when my guest gets here that show you the programming plan for the next 2 nights, including guests.
All I ever wanted to do was
Oh, 100%. I'd be wearing a polo like every day if I was a GM of an NFL team. I always thought it was dumb back when I was, a sports anchor. Why do sports anchors, why do ESPN guys, why do they wear suits? They're talking about freaking sports. It's so dumb. I mean, I know it's getting more casual now with like the McAfee kind of stuff, but like just on set, I just always thought that was dumb. Just like I thought it was dumb that NBA coaches wear suits. I guess it's more common now. A lot of those guys some of those guys wear polos,
what do you do?
more casual. I guess must be running a little bit late. Had a commitment.
This had my entire life on it, and I don't know. I would do that.
It was me. I threw it against the wall. I'm sorry.
Why would you do that?
Look, I lost my head. I've been stepping on my dick all day. Look,
I like that line. Been stepping on my dick all day. I've had days like that. Haven't you?
you've been a soldier there. You deserve this.
Kind of did today.
Okay?
Backed my car into my landlord's truck. Got a dent in my rear quarter panel. Good times. Yeah, Charlie, you have to dress up nice to be able to read the same thing off of the the weather service as all the other meteorologists in town read. They all get the same exact information from the same exact sources. It's Hazard. This brings up an interesting point, though, right? Like baseball, they wear the actual uniform. Can you imagine if that's what they did in football or even basketball?
Ray, remind me when they picked it. Was it first, second? It still hurts. 26. Well, that's good too.
I think they cast the role of Bo Callahan really well. Like, doesn't that dude look like a quarterback? He looks like a guy that would be drafted high in the NFL.
Sonny, my man.
I wonder if the Seahawks will have a war room cam this year. They didn't last year. I always like that. With all those picks in the top 92, being able to see like when they're working the phones and stuff. For that reason, I bet they don't actually. All right, here, I'll give it to you. Also, you should go back and watch the full episode from Monday. See, I've still got it in here. Here we go.
Listen, I'm going to ask you something. I want you to be absolutely honest with me. You think you can do that?
Yes, sir. Anything.
Oh, did your teammates come to your birthday party?
Oh, wait, this is the key. This is a key scene.
What? For your 21st birthday party, I'm asking that your teammates at Wisconsin come to that party or not.
Look, Miss Reeves, this isn't something I'm really very proud of, sir, but I don't really remember a single thing from that night. So.
You know what? I don't remember mine either.
I don't remember a whole lot of mine either. Happened in Pullman. We could, Osiris. They are on the list of teams that cannot refuse this year. First time in 15 years they've been in that position where if the league wants to do Hard Knocks in Seattle, which I think they'd be a really compelling story. I think Vegas is probably more compelling. And I think, ironically, they might be the front runner for it. That'd be interesting to watch, too, for us, wouldn't it? Gino and Pete? I don't think we're hearing anything about new uniforms.
You okay?
Do I take Callahan?
He's the winner.
I'm if I was doing my mock again today, I might tweak two things. One is I might not go with Jalen Conyers, knowing now they're converting Brady Russell full-time to fullback. I might have gone with a guy like Gavin Bartholomew from Pittsburgh or CJ Dupree from Alabama in that same range, more of a traditional tight end as opposed to Conyers, who could play kind of that fullback hybrid role. And then I actually had one version of that and then ended up changing it at the last minute, where instead of Lathan Ransom, the safety out of Ohio State in the 4th round, I went with Jarquez Hunter, or maybe it was one of the 5th round picks. I went with Jarquez Hunter, the running back out of Auburn, who I know they like. He's been really productive, has returned some kicks, A+ character. They had him on a 30 visit. So that was one I really struggled with up until the last minute. Yeah, they were never going to agree to it before because they always like to keep their method and the way they do things kind of close to the vest. But they were always in a position where they could refuse it too, because they were either coming off a playoff appearance, or last year they had a brand new coach, and so that puts you in that position. But this year, they're one of like 7 or 8 teams, I think, that if the league wants to do Hard Knocks, they cannot say no.
Hey guys, it's getting late. today at the NFL draft. Already fascinating twists and turns as the Seattle Seahawks and the Cleveland Browns have engaged in
I've heard that I've heard Chris Berman's a super nice guy. Yeah, I think they did a good effort. I think they made a good effort in trying to tell some of the human stories in the limited amount of time that they could. Thanks, Dogzilla. Des Watson, he's the 364 pounder, right? What controversy? The only question with him is, he's just a super, super limited player. Like, he's an early down run stuffer only. And I just don't know if that's worthy of a roster spot. I don't think he'll get drafted. He'd be a fun undrafted guy, though. Bring him in. What the heck, right? And try to take 40 pounds off of him, too. I like this idea, Max, because here's why. Pegues isn't only fun as a guy who's been a Wildcat quarterback and a fullback and a productive one, but he's a legit rotational defensive tackle too. Like, he absolutely can help you both ways. Yeah. Get him on that Ozempic, right? Get him an endorsement deal with Ozempic.
Yeah, take that. Yeah, I was wondering what you were doing. Yeah, it's go type boss. What name?
Yeah, the Bears were just on it. I kind of feel like Hard Knocks might come down to Vegas versus Seattle. Like Pete versus John, man. But here's a possibility. What if actually, guys, before we get going, let's pause. Okay. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Well, we can just pause. Anyone pause right now because my guest is obviously running late. I thought it was going to happen at like halfway, but this is where, the draft is starting. So we'll just take like a 5-minute break now. Maybe he'll pop in, maybe he can't make it. But either way, just to kind of touch on a couple of things, but for the Hard Knocks idea, they do the in-season Hard Knocks now too, right? Which is going to be based on an entire division. Like last year, they did the AFC North, right? Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. So you look at that AFC West, and to me, that's the hands down obvious choice. Other than maybe the NFC North would be pretty compelling too. Really compelling, actually. So maybe it's not as obvious, but you look at that AFC West and the head coaches in that division and everything, that would make a lot of sense. Maybe the league goes, hey, let's do that on the in season, and let's do the Seahawks as the preseason Hard Knocks. That'd be pretty cool. I wanted to just pause. Okay, so we're not watching the movie right now. So if you've been watching it, pause, and then we'll find the scene to sync up. And then any of you who either joined late or and haven't been watching and you want to get caught up, or you've been off by a couple of minutes. And so some of the comments have just kind of, so let me find. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm going to find like a really easy to identify scene. Okay. So it's right after Sonny Weaver says, hey, there's a new tradition. When we start winning, we'll go back to that. So I'm at the scene right after that where the guy at the table hands the pick back to be run up to the podium. Okay. So that's the scene I'm on right now. And actually perfect timing because we're about to be joined by my special guest. He'll be here in a minute. So that's the scene that we're at right now where the representative for the Browns is sitting at the table at the draft, and he's just handing the ticket to the guy behind him that's going to take it up to the podium. Okay. So my guest is going to be here in 15 minutes, so it might be at the end of the movie, and then we'll catch up on some other things. It'll be a little bonus for you, but that's where I want everyone to sync up. while you're doing that, I did find some trivia. I told you I'd kind of dive into this a little bit. So the two writers, Rajiv Joseph and Scott Rothman, they were at film school at NYU, right? Pretty typical career path. But they were football fans. And so they launched this idea and they threw this script around, and they actually consulted early on with Mike Tannenbaum of the Jets. They had a phone call with him. He allowed him to ask a whole bunch of questions about what draft day's like and everything else. And so they did actually get some GM involvement. Now, it doesn't sound like he was involved like as a consultant all the way through the production. Otherwise, some of these things, maybe they'd be a little bit more realistic. It was originally supposed to be centered on the Buffalo Bills, but the studio subsequently changed it to the Cleveland Browns because of cheaper production costs in Ohio, which is interesting to me because why would you have to shoot it in Ohio? Like, you can do what all the production houses do these days and shoot it in Vancouver, BC, or, you know, some other Toronto or whatever, where costs are a lot cheaper. So let's see, 60% positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 5.8 out of 10. I think that kind of sounds about right. I kind of feel like that's about right. You know, the website's consensus says it's perfectly pleasant for sports buffs and Costner fans, but overall, Draft Day lives down to its title by relying too heavily on the sort of by-the-numbers storytelling that only a statistician could love. Interesting. Chicago Sun-Times critic Richard Roper gave the film a B, stating the film is a sentimental, predictable, sometimes implausible, but thoroughly entertaining old-fashioned piece. I think that's pretty spot on. Ian Rappaport, who has a couple of brief cameos, admitted that there are, quote, plenty of things that aren't exactly the way it goes within the actual drafting process, but then goes on to praise the film on how NFL general managers do talk about trades as they did during the movie and the honest discussions real people may have. On the contrary, Jack Hamilton of Slate was harshly critical. The filmmaking here consists of making sure the camera is pointed at people who are explaining the film's plot to one another, preferably while they are wearing logos and standing in front of more logos. That sounds like it's a review written by a guy who just doesn't like football. How else are you going to make the movie? I like this is a good one though. It's the same guy. Says they made the film too upbeat. Some people. It isn't so much a movie as a movie-like infomercial for the kinder, gentler NFL in the wake of labor strife, off-field scandals, and the ongoing CTE concussion crisis. The NFL is doubling down on its fantasy of paternalism, and Draft Day is that fantasy's porn film. Okay. I mean, yeah, you could have made that movie. You could have made the real serious movie with all those serious subjects. Do you think anyone would want to watch it? It's interesting. Let's see. Former Green Bay Packer. Oh, this is okay. Former Green Bay Packer Vice President Andrew Brandt criticized Draft Day as, quote, lacking any true depiction of how an NFL team operates leading up to and during the draft. Now, some of that stuff we've pointed out, like the fact that, you know, he didn't involve his staff in it, or the fact that they had to go back and do another scouting report on Bo Callahan, like they didn't even consider that he might drop for any reason. Brandt says it's less realistic about the business of sports than Jerry Maguire or Moneyball. Riley McAtee for The Ringer noted that the Browns burdened themselves with an additional $7 million in annual salary, as stated by a Seahawks executive in the film, to the fictional Mack, a player who would have been lucky to be drafted in the 15th overall. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about positional value. You're not going to take a middle linebacker high in the draft at what it would cost. Yeah, there's no way. So yeah. And then McAtee also notes the complete ineptness. Oh, we haven't gotten there yet. I don't want to give that away. Haven't gotten to that point. Wait. Yeah. Let me just let my my guest know. Hold on. Okay. Still going to have the guest. Let you know when he gets here. The movie might be over by then, but so I think that's it. It doesn't sound like it. I think the one thing that they missed is maybe you have someone working closely with them throughout the process. Like if they had hired like paid a fee to like a Mike Mayock, right? And he could have kind of given him the whole, sort of been like, no, that's not realistic. That's not how that would go. Like, that would have been kind of cool. Yeah. Tom says, to be more realistic, draft day should have taken a commercial break before each Seahawks pick. All right. Let's start off again. So again, if you're trying to sync up, we are on the scene. It is 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 50 seconds into. So if you're on Netflix, just go to that point. It's one. Hold on. Let me make sure I have that accurate. Let me just make sure I have this again. Okay. He says, new tradition, guys. When this team starts winning, we'll go back to that. He's in the war room, Kevin Costner. And then it jumps to the draft in New York. And I've got it paused right now. They've just filled out the card and they're handing it back. Like, this is the scene right here. They're handing it back here. Let me show you again. This is the scene we're on. See that? It's a little blurry there. He's handing the card to the guy that's going to walk it up to the podium. I'm going to count down to 1. On 1. So 3, 2, 1. We'll hit play and we'll go from there. Okay. 3, 2, 1. They're running up the card. Who's it going to be? If you haven't watched the movie before, who are they taking at number 1 overall? Get your guesses in now. Again, if you didn't hear this earlier, they actually shot this during the draft in 2013. They took breaks. That's the whole actual crowd there and all the teams and everything. And Roger Goodell would come out and shoot this scene in between the actual action. Or they shot some of it before the first pick too. Who's it going to be? I'm a little disappointed none of you guessed Joe Schmaghetti. You take a middle linebacker with the number 1 pick, that kind of positional value, that salary, and a guy that we've already seen wasn't going to be picked until 15 if the Browns didn't take him. Unbelievable. That's an accurate reaction, though, from the fans, from the press. Although, again, if you wanted to be really football realistic, they should add Gruden or one of those guys actual say, you took a middle linebacker at 1? They should have used the term positional value. And there's the list. Told you I'd give you my no matter what list. Let's do that now. So this isn't just 18. These are remember 7 or 8 years ago when the Seahawks took Joey Hunt, like in the 6th round, undersized center, actually started some games for us. And afterwards, Schneider said that was a guy that we did not want to come out of this draft without. They just liked him that much. Doesn't have to be the top of the draft, but just guys that I love so much, just like he does Vontae Mack, that at the point in their draft, at any point in the draft where they're kind of expected to go, that I just love so much, I want to find a way to take that guy no matter what. Here's my Vontae Mack no matter what list. Femi Oladejo probably have to be in the 2nd round. I don't know if he gets to 80. If he does, that's a no-brainer for me. Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn. Absolutely a Seahawk character, person, off the field, leader, really productive running back, can return kicks too. Chase Lunt, the tackle out of Connecticut, probably 4th round, because I think he's the guy that could be the long-term answer at right tackle. I don't think they'll re-sign Lucas after this year. And a perfect zone fit and just an absolute pancake monster at the 2nd level. And then Jackson Slater, the local kid, I like him on day 3. I think he has starter upside at both guard and center, and I love that kind of depth and versatility.
need you to come inside now.
Did he? Oof. I'm surprised they didn't digitally scrub him from the film and like CGI somebody else in. They should have had Rosenhaus play that role. I bet he could have pulled that off and probably would have said yes.
3 first-round picks to get the guy I could have gotten.
If there's one major plot hole in this movie above all else, it's that they went middle linebacker at 1. I mean, they could have done a defensive tackle or an edge player and it would have made sense, right? Just from a modern NFL football perspective, but a middle linebacker that high, major plot hole. Yeah, there we go. Diddy trying to.
Excuse me. You're not going to believe what's happening.
You know, I think back, Dion, and I go back to 1983, and I start thinking about Dan Marino. He was the 6th quarterback taken. Holy shit.
Now it gets pretty realistic here, right? All of a sudden there's whispers. Is this the Shooter Sanders thing? Hey, shout out to Geno Smith for falling out of the first round. See, Mayock was involved in this movie. They should have had him consult. I miss him. I miss him on the draft coverage. But like the idea that like even whispers about a quarterback's personality can be enough for a team to pass on him because it's such a massive decision. It's such a massive commitment. Are you talking about Slater, Mike? We haven't. Schneider has been predominantly, almost exclusively big school at the top of the draft for years now. I'm talking about a day 3 guy that absolutely is an NFL football player and would be great value on day 3. Yeah, we did, Mike. In what year was that? 2007, 8? Yeah. That'll never happen again, will it? Aaron Curry. Ugh. It's right up there with biggest busts in draft history for the Seahawks, right? Right up there with the quarterbacks, Meyer, McGuire. Okay, this is one of the storylines that's just flat out dumb. And it's one of the things in that Wikipedia I was reading about that I didn't want to give away, but took a lot of criticism from football people, including Andrew Brandt, about how this guy's portrayed. This GM. Although the new GM, the really young guy, James Gladstone of the Jags, kind of looks like this dude. Aaron Curry was Vontae Mack. Too big, too rocked up, stiff.
Wow, Arizona went corner. Starts with my backup. It's a tough break, but hey, Callahan still in play. Who's picking 5th? The Broncos, and they're not taking Callahan. They got Matt.
Yeah, if they had had an actual GM consulting throughout the production of this movie, there's no way they would have portrayed this guy like this. You could have done this exact same trade, but had that GM be into it. Like, he's looking for value. He's an analytics guy, right? Like, there's nobody at 7 that we like. The top guys are off our board. I like the value of 3 2s for that.
I told you we like Vontae better. Damn it, Sonny. I'm about to be on the clock here. Please.
You know, we have cash flow problems. Like, you could have realistically portrayed this exact same scenario and not made the GM look like a freaking idiot.
Why? I don't know. Gut feeling. To be honest, Jeff, it's a character thing for me. Look, I have other needs. So if you want to make a trade for 6, I can make that happen right now. You want 6? What do you think?
Forget about the size of the school Gray Zabel played at. He's legit.
I can't tell you that, Jeff. The question is, do you want to make a trade? Because if you're not sold on Callahan, you can still come out of here with a handful of draft picks. You look like a seasoned pro, and everybody wonders what you're up to next year.
I get this point, but you could have pulled it off.
Look, Jeff, every year someone comes out of this looking like a donkey.
You could have pulled it off. He could have used analytics as his reasoning, and then you could have had a little scene later where the owner's pissed at him for doing it.
Look, everyone else has a reason to have
But this whole idea, and he did the same thing with the Seahawks guy, or he did it with him. The whole idea you're going to call a GM and bully him into making a deal with you is one of, if not the dumbest things about this movie. Also, these are the scenes where they should have made this an R-rated movie. Like, these scenes would be so profane.
I know Denver hasn't picked yet, but they will any second. All right?
Shit, Sonny, I need more. Tell me, what is the very best that you can do?
Final offer. Take our number 2 pick this year, next year, and the next year after that. That's 3 years of number 2 picks.
Four. I want your next 4 number 2s.
Nah, Jeff, I'm not going to do that. Stay with me on planet Earth here. All right? You know what I just offered you is fair.
So, 3 years of second round.
That's right. You can pick right now. You and your guys can regroup, figure yourselves out, and relax. This is a good deal, Jeff. This is a good deal for both of us.
Deal.
Also dumb how his entire staff congratulates him. Like, nobody in the room's like, what the? Now, this is the best part of the movie coming up, right? When he calls Tom, the Seahawks GM again. This is good stuff. Also, one of the funnier parts of this movie is coming up here in a second. How many minutes do teams have in the first round? Is it 15 still? It's 15 minutes, right? So it's an hour and a half basically to get from the first pick to the 7th pick. If everyone takes their full allotment of time, right? Keep that in mind.
Please, can I have a moment of goddamn silence while I do my job here, okay? Don't quit. Just let me do my job. Just let me do it. Don't quit now. If by the end of the night you still want to quit, then quit.
Motive, it's not completely unlike what the Texans did a couple of years ago, right? Okay.
You son of a bitch. Anthony, I need 5 minutes, right?
How long does it take, even on a private jet, to get from Radio City Music Hall in New York to Cleveland in 105 minutes?
Tom, it's Sonny.
You have to get to the airport in your limo. They showed him getting in a limo. Get on your plane, fly to Cleveland. That's a little movie magic for you there. All right, this is the fun scene.
Bo Callahan. God, let that John Carson screw this up. It's Jeff Carson, Tom. He doesn't have to.
I do. Look at that.
What? I just
That look on Tom's face.
I'm on the clock. It's me.
Bullshit. The Jacksonville Jaguars have made a trade. The Browns now have the 6th pick and are on the
All the cheese is worth it in this scene right here. All of it.
Sonny, what'd you get?
No time for that. I'm on the clock. I'm going to pick Bo, Tom, unless you want him more. And if so, let's make a deal. We still have Bo Callahan.
What the hell's going on, son?
Everyone thinks there's something wrong with the kid, but you don't. All right? You've done your due diligence. You're about to pull off the move of the century, but you need my pick to do it. So make me an offer.
You're going rogue. You're going renegade.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I could have gotten Vontae at 7, but instead I
So when
stayed up with you just just so I can get
In a PG-13 movie, you're only allowed like 2 F-bombs, right?
I am a crazy man, so come on, take advantage of it. What are you waiting for? Make me a deal, Tom, at 6. You get your boy Wonder. What do you want? I want my number ones back, all of them.
That's crazy. Why would I give them back?
Because at the end of the day, no one's the wiser, Tom. We haven't lost anything, and you get the quarterback beside you've always wanted for $7 million less.
No, I can't do it. I look like an idiot, like I panicked. You take them. You obviously don't want to. I'll stick with my draft picks.
Yeah, but you want him, Tom, don't you? Seahawks fans want a hero, and you denied him.
Not that bad.
Don't lie to me. I checked all the Seahawks fan blogs and chat rooms. They're all calling for your head.
Checked all the Seahawk fan blogs and chat rooms.
Barbarians are at the gate.
I don't care about
Did Sonny Weaver check out my podcast?
You and I both know. I have the golden ticket now, Tom, and if I give it to you, you get to save Seahawks football in Seattle.
How about give you number 2 picks?
No.
He's spitballing. He's not holding the trade chart. He's not talking to his guys. He's just making it up.
Well, you want to cry about it, Tom, or you want to
That's not fair. That's something a GM would never say to another GM either.
Okay, screw it. No more offer. It's off the table, Tom. I'm taking Callahan.
Whoa, no. Hey, wait. Hey, you have a deal. Give me your picks. We have a deal.
This is the best part.
What else do we need?
Special teams. Putney, get Putney.
Yeah, David Putney.
David Putney.
Hello?
I can't believe we gave up David Putney in this deal. It's such a good
Sorry, that
punt
deal's
returner.
off the table. What? We live in a different world than we did just 30 seconds ago.
What? What do you want now?
I want my picks back. I want David Putney. I need a punt returner.
How'd that come?
It doesn't matter. I want all my picks back, and I want David goddamn Putney just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already? You make this deal right now, Tom, and you get Bo Callahan. Say it with me. You get Bo. Come on, Tom. Say it with me, you pancake eating motherfucker.
That's the line. You pancake eating motherfucker.
All right.
The fact he even thought about not doing the deal because he had to include a punt returner. Also, another major plot hole I never had thought of before, where the owner leans over and he goes, saving $7 million going from 1 to 7 would save us. That would fix our salary cap issue. They were going to pay that when they had the first pick to begin with. It's slotted money.
Ray Jennings. We take Ray Jennings.
That's right. Cleveland Royals.
So they have 2 top 10 picks, the first and the 7th, and they take the 2 positions that maybe have the least positional value. They go middle linebacker and running back in the top 10 after all of that. If they'd just done this script all over again and had it be like a left tackle and an edge, that would have made sense. That would have made sense. I don't think he's going to be synced up on the movie, but ladies and gentlemen, welcome Bryce Coots. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, Dan?
From the Hawks Own Rundown podcast. So we got about 10 minutes left. They just made the deal to get their picks back.
Okay. Yep.
And then now they're taking Ray J. So we're just talking about, like, I've seen this movie a million times, and I guess I'd never really in this context realized that one of the dumbest things about it, and I like this movie, but there's some silliness to it, is that after all the moves that they just made, they have 2 picks in the top 7, and they use them on a middle linebacker and a running back. like the worst positional value you could possibly have. If they could rewrite this movie and have it be like a left tackle and an edge player,
Yeah.
it'd be super realistic.
Hey, but let's be honest. That was an era back then where it was about.
It was 11 years ago.
Hey, well, how did we win a Super Bowl, Dan? With great linebacker play on that defense and a running back in Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I guess so. Here's Arian Foster getting the phone call.
Oh, yeah. Ray Jennings. The best fact about that is his dad in that movie is Terry Crews, who is a linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually played in the NFL for the Chargers.
And he had those great commercials too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also Sergeant Terry Jeffords from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes.
First and foremost. Stick around, you guys. When the movie's over here in a few minutes, we'll Bryce and I'll chat a little bit about some current events. We had some things happen tonight.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited. It's Christmas Eve, Dan. It's Christmas Eve for all of us.
It's Draftmas Eve.
It's Draftmas Eve. That someone's got to patent that, take that, trademark it, whatever, make shirts, whatever it is.
Make no mistake about it. The Cleveland Browns are his team now for sure. This is the draft day Browns fans were waiting for. Sonny Weaver Jr. pulled it off. You were like, I want all my picks back. I want David goddamn Plucky because I feel like it. Like, how did you come up with that? Here, look this way out.
And we criticize the movie, but we don't know what the rest of the roster looks like. Like
Brian Drew. Brian Drew is the rest of that roster.
They have Brian Drew, and that just maybe they're loaded up front on both sides of the ball.
Well, don't forget the guy lifting weights in that movie actually was their center at the time in Alex Mack.
That was Alex Mack. Someone in the comments said it was Joe Thomas. I was like, that's not Joe
that's
Thomas.
Alex Mack when he was
Really?
the center. Yes, that's him doing the deadlift there with the trainer. That's Alex Mack.
Oh, it's not the trainer.
No.
Okay.
The trainer, I don't know who that is, but like the actual player lifting is Alex Mack.
I did not know that. That's a little trivia. I did find out today. We looked at some trivia stuff that it was originally supposed to be centered on the Buffalo Bills, but it was cheaper to shoot in Ohio. I mean, now they just kind of wrap up the romance or whatever. Like most of the football stuff is done.
Mm-hmm.
I did show them this. I'll share this with you, Bryce. I put together my my Vontae Mack No Matter What list.
Oh, okay.
And none of these guys are first rounders. They don't figure in there, but it's just my guys that like I just love so much that somehow, some way, I want to try and figure out a way to come out of the draft with these guys at wherever they're sort of slotted. So this was my no matter what list. I got Femi probably in the third round, probably in that 80 range. Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn, just a running back. The more I study him and find out about him off the field too, the more I like him. Plus he's got some kick return in his past. Chase Lunt, we've talked a lot about him. And then Jackson Slater is just a guy, great value on day 3 that can play multiple positions and local kid and everything else. So who's a couple of your Vontae Mack No Matter What guys?
So you took a lot of the guys for me, at least 3 of them there in Slater, Lund, and Femi. A no matter what guy for me actually is a Coug. Kyle Williams is a no matter what guy for me to help this receiving core.
I'd like it.
And it's interesting for me at the tight end position. Mason Taylor is a no matter what guy for me. Like I know he's a higher guy, but just how I think he could fit into this offense. He's definitely someone for me that I would say is a no matter what. I don't actually have any quarterbacks. For being a quarterback guy, I don't have any quarterbacks that are no matter what guys.
It's just not that kind of class.
No, it's not. And, so for me, another one for me, if we were able to get him, if we went into the running back, draft at a higher point than most people would probably feel comfortable, Caleb Johnson from Iowa is a no matter what guy for me to come in. He's just good, solid running back. Yeah, he's a great scheme fit. And another guy for me is, and you actually appreciate that hoop craze, would be Ashton Gillette from Louisville.
Yeah, you love him.
I do. I think if somehow they walked out of this draft with him and like say Femi as two edges, somehow it falls or breaks that way, I would be so happy. But I just love how he plays. He's someone I've been high on from the beginning of this process.
Bernie Kosar cameo. And they come out.
Bernie, Jim
this
Brown.
is at the end. This is when they run out of the tunnel. They got Vontae Mack breaking everybody down. They got Brian Drew. He's happy now. And apparently an elite offensive line and defensive line because they didn't need to use any top 10 picks on those guys. All right, that's it. That's pretty much the movie. That was fun. So you're talking about Ashton Gillott. You're talking about, maybe taking two edges. Don't know if you can do that now because with the Seahawks releasing Cam Young today, right? We get a little bit of news. I assume, haven't heard anything yet. Maybe it's out there and I just missed it, but I would assume we're talking about an injury settlement. Probably just couldn't get healthy after that second year.
Yeah.
Couldn't really even say he was banged up his first year too. Couldn't get on the field. So, that defensive line, and I've been saying it, we did our hot take show just the other day with Mitch and Josh from the 12 Talk. And these were my two hot takes. One is they're going to draft two defensive tackles. And that was before they released Cam Young, just because, I've had people tell me defensive tackle's not a need when I tell them, Kenneth Grant in the first, right? But they haven't seen the depth chart. It's incredibly thin. Now it's even thinner. There's nobody. It's Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leo Williams, and that's it now. And so I think this is almost a must-have, like a have to, as opposed to, something I think they will. And then I think they will take a running back in this draft. You got to load up that line. They didn't sign anyone in free agency. The Seahawks have a long history of signing like veteran, defensive tackles, and they certainly could and probably will after the draft, right? You get some cap cuts or whatever, but yeah, that changes things a little bit. And then somebody tipped me off as soon as the show started that because this is something I didn't see today that the Seahawks announced today, or that Brady Russell announced, or that they put out their official roster, that he is now a fullback.
Yeah.
So does that kind of change some of the tight ends maybe that you might be looking at out of this class to add? Because I had Jalen Conyers in my final mock draft because he kind of fit that hybrid role. But if you're moving Brady Russell to that, maybe that opens them up now, if they don't go tight end early, certainly, to take one of those guys later on that are a little bit more of a traditional two-way tight end.
Yeah, and it makes the addition of, and I can't even remember his name, the tight end that we did sign this offseason. It makes his addition a little bit more interesting too now.
The 49ers. Yeah.
Yeah, from the 49ers. I can't remember his name. I want to call him like Sorbet, but I know that's not what his name is.
I'm glad you brought him up. I keep forgetting about him, and he's a guy they like.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's been in the system, played for Kubiak when he was the pass game coordinator there. So he adds
good point
that role as well. So like, I feel like for Seattle, the tight end spot now, like as much as I love Mason Taylor and Arroyo and some of these guys,
I'm looking at the roster right now. Brady Russell now listed as a fullback,
which I actually think is a better spot for him.
Yeah, 6'3", 250.
Yeah, I think he's a better. Oh, there we go. So it's kind of like I said, it's Saubert, I think is the name.
Oh yeah, Joe Saubert.
Yeah. So
and I correct myself also. I had completely forgotten that Quentin Bohanna is actually on the 90-man roster right now, who they added late last year, had him on the practice squad, 6'4", 330 nose tackle, fourth year out of Kentucky.
So it's interesting to me because I look at the tight end spot. I think it's, unless one of these guys falls at the right area for Seattle, they may be looking at like a guy like a Luke Lachey or Mitchell Evans, someone they can get later on, even a Jackson Hawes that we've talked about. Like, if not one of these guys,
Gavin Bartholomew is another guy I like down there.
Yeah, if not one of these guys falls at the right spot, I think that's a spot that Seattle can kick the can because they still have Noah Fant on the roster. I think they still, unless they can get, again, I think it would take a Mason Taylor, Loveland, or Warner. Somehow they fell in the first. Arroyo, one of those guys, even a Harold Fanning. It would take one of those guys of significance to potentially make Noah Fant expendable and to move off of him. If it's someone that we're talking about later on, I think there's a higher chance Noah Fant stays on the roster for another season. They may restructure his deal somehow, but I think he stays. So it makes things interesting. And Brady Russell, I think, is going to be a good fullback. I don't know how much this presses them not to just look at UDFAs for that role now and not even waste the draft.
Yeah, they'll bring, because
So-
those guys, there's such a lack of demand for that
Yeah.
position around the league that if you sign a guy in undrafted free agency and you like him, he doesn't have to be on your final 53. You can put him on the practice squad without an issue. I do think this means that they're probably not going to sign Adam Prentice now. I wouldn't think.
No, I don't think so. So I think that'll be, a thing that they maybe, depending on if they get into camp. And the biggest thing for Brady Russell on this is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
He fought injuries all through last year. Like literally,
He's going to be playing a much more physical position now.
Exactly. And that's going to be the interesting part of this. I don't know if you saw, Dan, another piece of information that came out about Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. That came out just as we were getting started. Yeah, going to the Tennessee Titans. I like that Tyler got to break the news himself. That's a rarity in the NFL these days. Did he represent himself? Maybe that's why.
I think he does. I think he does now.
Usually that stuff leaks out. The question is Brady Russell a pancake eating MFer? Like Sonny Weaver. We need a couple of those. I think this is an identity. We've talked about how this is an identity draft, right? And on both sides of the ball, we need to add more guys that kind of play that style of football and have that identity that Mike McDonald wants to establish. I think this is a good theme. Let's get some pancake eating MFers out of this draft.
I totally agree, and I'm gonna be interested to see, because this is the first time we've really had a fullback, like actually with the designation on the roster since, I think, could be wrong, but I think Will Tukawafu was the last true fullback we had.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think literally is not a tight end that's playing that spot like we had Kobe Helfer or Cooper Helfer.
Was Tukawafu after Mike Robb?
Yes, because we went Mike Robb to Derek Coleman for a bit, and then to Tukawafu.
I'm living in an alternate universe sometimes, I swear. Some clarity from Adam Schefter. Lockett's deal is 1 year, $4 million worth up to $6 million of the Tennessee Titans. Now, someone asked during the show, and a lot of fans are now going to ask when they see that deal, like, why couldn't we do that? Well, we could have. We have $36 million in cap space right now, among the tops in the league. It just, at this point now, with this scheme and with what's in the wide receiver room adding Cooper Kupp, it just wouldn't fit, would he?
No, he doesn't. Like, the thing you're looking for in this receiving game, and this is one thing, again, like I tell people to go back and watch the receivers that have played in this. And I mean, don't just go watch Kyle Shanahan at San Francisco. Go watch him back with the Falcons. Go watch back what he did in Washington. Go back and watch his dad and Gary in Denver. Receivers need to get yak in this offense. That's something that's a big focal point for the receiving core, is yak yardage after catching and sitting down in zones. Ed McCaffrey was really good at it. Rod Smith was really good at it. You look at some of the receivers that San Francisco's had, and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are good at it when they're on the field and healthy. You look at JSN, he's actually really good at getting yak. Tyler's main thing lately, catch and fall down. Catch, fall down, and roll a little bit. And I don't blame him. He had a really bad leg injury. Like, that was really what kind of changed Tyler Lockett's mentality to a point, was when he broke that leg and that ankle. And that's a big thing in this offense. And the other thing, and I love Tyler, do you really think Tyler at his size and his age now can go in and make some of the blocks that are required by these receivers in this running game that they're going to ask them to do?
Right.
That's another big part of it. And that's why I think when you look at who Seattle may take at receiver, you're going to see guys that are good at blocking and have a frame to them.
A couple other things I want to get your reaction to today, and I'm trying to find this exact quote. Did you read the John Boyle piece today about, the guys coming back to the start of off-season workouts? This quote from Jackson Smith and Jigba, I thought, was the thing that stood out to me more than anything else. He says, "I'm super excited. I love to play ball, love the Seahawks, love having Seahawks on my chest." I just, I've gotten a chance to interact with JSN a few times, got to meet his parents. Like, he's just a 100% genuine guy. Like, when he says something like that, that's not lip service. Like, as much criticism as John Schneider's taken for not signing a lot of guys to second deals during his tenure, like, JSN just feels more and more like a guy that should be a long long-term Seahawk.
It was really funny. The other day, I got asked, give me a comp for JSN. And because he's kind of a unique player in his right and what he's good at. And I said, he is, if you took Doug and Tyler and smushed them together.
That's pretty good.
It literally, that's the only thing when I think of JSN, his skill set. Like, he's got the ability to get off the line, get off the jam like Doug did, but he's got the savviness of Doug and Tyler to sit down in spots and be deceptively fast. Like, there were points I don't think anyone thought after Tyler's leg injury he was the burner still. He had speed, don't get me wrong, but he never, that's what DK came in. DK was your over-the-top burner guy. Tyler, though, was deceptively at catching some of these drag routes when he didn't, fall and had space to move. And he always found a way of getting open. And that was JSN the second half of the season. You saw JSN become that guy that was always open. He'd find ways to sit in zones where the defense wasn't expecting it and just be in the right spot. And so for me, he is literally, if we took those two players together, that's who you have as JSN.
He's got some Bobby Ingram in him too.
Yep. Good old Bobby.
Let's see. Another thing that came out today, Daniel Jeremiah's final mock. Well, two things. First, Matt Miller's final mock came out. And in that, he said, according to his league sources, and he's built a pretty nice little collection or network of sources in his time at ESPN after really working his way up through the ranks as a draft analyst. Last year, he was one of the only guys that had Michael Penix to Atlanta before the first round, and that wasn't just him spitballing. That was based on some sourcing he was hearing. Today, he says that the Seahawks, that it's basically down to Tetaroa McMillan or Gray Zabel at 18, and that McMillan is expected to be long gone. In fact, now if depending on what you read, what you believe, it kind of sounds like the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go offense at 5 now, and they're trying to decide between Ashton Genty, much to the chagrin, I'm sure, of the LA Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders and Pete Carroll, and Tet McMillan. He might go as high as 5. I don't think he gets out of the top 15. And then Zabel could be the pick at 18, which a lot of people, especially a lot of fans, think that's bad value. They think he should be, he should be a guy taken later. But your thoughts on that, if that sourcing is accurate?
I figured Zabel has been on Seattle's top circled list for a very long time. McMillan, like I've said to you, I don't know if I've said it on air, but Seattle had more insight into McMillan than I think people realized.
Jed Fish.
Due to Jed Fish being the guy that recruited him to Arizona.
Carroll, yeah.
Like that whole staff that came from Arizona over. And like we know, this process starts in May of the year before. So they knew McMillan was going to be a guy. I can't believe John Schneider and them potentially, even when they were doing just general look at the receiving group, we're not talking to Jed Fish and Brennan Carroll and those guys and being like, hey, what's this kid like? Like, he's got all this, and this, but what is he like? Because it was interesting. Jay Glazer put out a report, and I don't know if you saw it, about the new thing that a lot of teams are adding to their draft boards now, where they have, legal issues and all those kind of things. And there's a third thing that's now been added, which he said more teams have put on. Do players love football? Do these guys love football? And the guys that don't love go in their own separate category and get taken off boards. And he said he's heard of it, but he said it's becoming more and more common now in the NFL for that to be a big part of this factoring. And so Jay Glazer, again, very connected. When I saw that, my ears kind of perked up and I went, okay, that's interesting that more teams are buying into that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But Seahawks,
I think, changed their grading system and how they weighted it after 2017, after the Malik McDowell situation. And you hear the all ball term. Yeah. That's really important to them. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Like Zabel, to me, if he's if say, for example, Kelvin Banks and all these other guys we've talked about are off the board, Will Campbell, Membu, who we all expect to be off the board, and he's there at 18, it'll be an interesting situation for John Schneider and Mike McDonald on what they do, because if they get an opportunity to move back, I think they might take that over sticking and picking with Zabel at 18. Just for the fact of trying to get another pick in that top 100 or even a pick in next year's draft, per se. And I saw Daniel Jeremiah's one. I don't see Seattle trading right out of the first round. I just don't. Well, I think
it doesn't seem plausible. And even when I did the show last week, where I ran through that scenario with the Giants, and it was based on a lot of reporting. Diana Rossini and Jonathan Jones are both saying that the Giants weren't going to go quarterback at 3, and they want to trade back up into the first round to get their guy. And the Browns could do this too, because they have as much, if not more, similar draft capital than the Giants do to make a move like that. And then also that on the back of that, the Jordan Schultz report that Dable loves Jackson Dart. He was the first one to really report that. And so then I put those dots together and said, okay, well, if you want to move up into the first round and get your guy, you got to get in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
You have to, right? And so that would put Seattle in play there. And then I ran through some different scenarios. So to see Jeremiah come out, and he wasn't just making this stuff up. Like he's worked in front offices, and he said, I'm hearing that Seattle, let me see exactly how he worded it, but he basically said that I'm hearing Seattle would like to, or has explored moving out of the first round. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I've contacted a few people I know that are some very well connected, and they're kind of reporting the same thing Matt Miller said. It really is down to McMillan and Zabel. But they said if both go off the board, that will be where it gets really interesting. And they said they think that this first round could actually be more unpredictable than it's been in the last few years. Really, they think 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much sold. After that, they have no idea how this board's going to go.
See, now this I do hate. So Jeremiah did say in the full write-up, he said, I've heard that the Seahawks are exploring or would like to move out of the first round. But his mock trade, did you see the actual trade he presented?
Oh, it was the the Giants coming up for Dart.
It was, but all the Seahawks would get in exchange for moving down from 18 to 34 is their second rounder next year. There's no way.
No, that's not happening.
They do that. No, it would also have to include like a 3 at minimum. I mean, this is what I came up with looking at the charts when I did my show on the same scenario. It's like, okay, maybe even if you make that, the first rounder I thought was a little rich. So let's say that's a 2026 second rounder, but that's at minimum if I'm considering doing that, even in this draft class. And I understand why they might want to, because they see the value of the 18th pick being diminished this year because of the quality of the class. That, you at least better get another day 2 pick back this year in addition to future capital. So maybe he just missed that. Daniel Jeremiah is not in the business of, doing a lot of trade conjecture and stuff like that. But I thought that was, yeah.
I also will say the other thing that
live it.
Yeah. The other thing I think that's going to be very interesting to see over this is Adam Schefter's last 2 reports on Seattle. And I know Rob Staten,
the quarterback stuff.
Yeah. And as much as I know people think, hey, they're throwing smoke, so people think that they're doing that to move up and stuff. The one thing I'll say about Schefter, and Rob was really on point with this, if you go back and look at his history, whenever he kind of says the same thing twice this close to the draft, he knows something. Chris Mortensen used to do it when he was around, and he actually, and Rob was on point with this, prior to 2012 when we drafted Russ, he told Russ Seattle was going to take him. I think there's a little bit more fire there than there is just kind of blow off smoke. I think Seattle will take a quarterback in these top 100 picks.
To me, the only one that makes sense, given the fact that now they've added Drew Lock, and certainly, I agree with the fact that having Drew Lock on your roster for a 2-year pretty team-friendly deal shouldn't preclude you from taking a quarterback if you really believe in one. And I do believe that Howell gets moved at some point, hopefully by the end of this weekend. I think the only guy that makes sense is if Milroe gets to 50. Because I think he fits the timeline. I think most people agree he shouldn't play early. Maybe a couple of years for the Seahawks to see what they have in Sam Darnold. And they do believe that he's a long-term answer. But if he's not, if they can develop Milroe, but also he's a guy that you can use. I was thinking about this some more yesterday, even before the latest Schefter thing came out. I keep going back to this comment in Clint Kubiak's introductory press conference where he was asked, I know you'll remember this, he was asked, like, why were you guys so good on third down last year? And, for all the injury issues and everything they had in New Orleans, they were pretty good on third down. He said, Taysom Hill. Like, that was his answer. He didn't even hesitate. Taysom Hill. Well, who could be the most like Taysom Hill that could give you that dynamic X factor right now while he's developing in the background as a passer? It's Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, and there's some things that, I've done a bigger deep dive into Jalen Milroe in the last 2 weeks, I'd say, just to see, like, everyone's got their opinions on him. He can't throw this, he can't do that. And I know he works with Jordan Palmer, who's one of the better QB coaches out there right now for guys to work with. Sam Darnold works with him, Kyle McCord, a bunch of these guys. And if you actually go and look at Jalen Milroe, his last year before Kalen DeBoer showed up in this group. So we're talking back in 2025, I guess, or 2024, I guess. And you go and look at what he was like then. And then you even look at what he was last year. There is progression. You can see progression in his game. It's not astronomical. It's not like, hey, holy crap, he's become the next amazing pocket passer. But you can see growth in his game. The one thing about Jalen Milroe that's interesting as well to me is everyone seems to have forgotten the scouting reports on Josh Allen. Big guy, could move, couldn't throw intermediate or short to save his life was the thing out of Wyoming. He could throw the ball crazy down the field. And he went number 10. And in his first bit of the NFL career, he still struggled with accuracy. Remember when Buffalo still couldn't? There were points where people were like, wow, like he's got all these rushing yards, but his passing is horrible. And then he fine-tuned it through the league, and you saw him turn into what he is now. And you're right, Dan. If you take a guy like a Milroe, the athletic side is huge. You're talking about a guy that is the size, similar size and build to a Cam Newton in some respects, but as fast as a Lamar Jackson. Like, you can't teach that. You can't be like, cool, I want you to do this and go do that. And you see the stuff he does.
Yeah.
You get him in a system where he doesn't have to play. You use him as a Taysom Hill to start, but he doesn't have to play. And he can learn and sit. And then all of a sudden you roll him out in 3 years.
Yeah.
He's still young. Like, all of a sudden, you see it. And as, again, people talk about, well, Mike McDonald was around Lamar. Mike McDonald was also around JJ McCarthy, who was, I think, undervalued for his athleticism that he had at Michigan because the system didn't require him. But you saw him make plays where you're like, how did he do that? Well, he is a great athlete too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Allen comparison, I mean, Allen was barely over 50% completions at Wyoming.
Yep.
Milroe 65% completions. Like, we talk about the intermediate stuff and the issue with it. As a quarterback's coach, what do you think is the main contributing factor? Is it just timing and pace? Is he just rushing things, or does he have some mechanical things that need to be fixed?
I think for him, the biggest thing watching him is it's understanding footwork, matching up to concept. And this is where a lot of these quarterbacks, and I think that's why John even said it in his press conference, how they get pushed up and the lack of development at the quarterback position. He said it basically throughout this offseason. It's his footwork. Your footwork is everything as a quarterback. And if you don't have good footwork, it's going to make everything else slower or struggle or whatever you want. So he delivers a good ball. His throwing mechanics are not bad. Like his upper body, his footwork's where he needs to have the work and understanding. And that's the biggest thing I think that you can work on. There's things you can do. Like people always say, oh, once you get to the pros, they don't do anything. No, you still work. Like these guys work with QB coaches in the offseason. Like there is opportunity for a guy that's not going to have to play right away to fine tune and get better at those things. And those are some things where I think if you talk about a, character thing, and we talked about, I know on your show you did it, character is a huge thing for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe is loved. He is a guy that tilts the room.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you want your quarterback to do. And if you can say in 2 or 3 years, you're rolling out Jalen Milroe, that's a more polished passer with still the same athleticism, that is a very scary thing to the NFC and to the NFL going, yeah, this guy sat for a couple of years. We've been able to refine him in a good system that doesn't ask him to make line checks. He can boot. He can do all these things. All of a sudden, you've got a weapon.
Yeah, the character thing, I didn't know before I went to the Senior Bowl. I hadn't seen any interviews with him or anything. I think I was vaguely aware that he was a 2-time team captain. But he was one of the players featured in the introductory press conference on the Monday before practices start. And I actually asked him the first question right out of the gate. I was sitting right in front of him. And as soon as he started talking and the way he answered the question, I went, because at the time I wasn't high on the Seahawks taking a shot on him and, just thought he was too much of a project. But in that moment I thought, shit, this guy's a Seahawk. Like he just exudes everything that John Schneider looks for in any player, regardless of position, let alone, someone that's going to run your team.
Well, and that's the thing. And this is the one thing I will say, I look at Josh Allen's stats. I have them right here. Started in 2018, 52% completion. 2019, 58. 2020, 69. 21, 63. 22, 63. 2023, 2022, or 2024, 66, 64.
Yep.
You can get better at it. It's not something that you're all of a sudden prone to not getting better at.
Yeah.
So this whole narrative and this is what drives me nuts with people that don't either have never played the position, don't understand it. You can get better when it comes to your accuracy, whether it's the system you're running, the understanding of what you're looking at, and your footwork and stuff like that will increase your accuracy. It's not all about your arm. It's not all about all those things. It's about whether or not you can actually dial in your footwork to what your scheme and your coaches are asking you to do, and understanding what you're looking at when you walk up to the line of scrimmage. It's all about understanding windows and openings. That's what the NFL is. It's not about, we think of all the guys we've seen over the years that have had cannons for arms and have amazing velocity. Ryan Leaf, being a Coug, was one of the best physical gifted prospects ever. Didn't have the work ethic to stick in the NFL.
Yeah.
We've seen other guys that have them, like Patrick Mahomes has the work ethic. Patrick Mahomes was not some stellar completion percentage guy in college.
Yeah.
I think that's a misguided thing that people really are stuck to because they've heard some people say it years ago and have just stuck to it and gravitated it to.
Presidente, if I was a Milroe merchant, I'd be campaigning for him in the first round, wouldn't I? I have just always said the ceiling is undeniable. And if you could get the most out, if you can get him to reach his potential as a prospect, you're talking about an elite player at the quarterback position. I didn't think the timeline matched up once they pivoted from Geno to Darnold. With Geno, it absolutely did. I might have considered him in the first round if Geno was still your quarterback. That timeline would have matched up a little bit better, but not now. I'm only taking him on the second round if he slips, and then only because of potential and value. You have to take shots on quarterbacks. You have to project. You have to. It's always a risk, and he's worth the risk. To me, the value is a second rounder. I can see why other teams would value him in the first, which is why
a second rounder for sure, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just out of curiosity, what do you think Patrick Mahomes' completion percentage was on average through college?
God, I'm going to guess right around 60. I just remember the knock on him coming out of college was, and this was kind of before throwing off platform was really widely accepted, right? And part of the reason it is now is because he's done so well at it. But it was mechanical issues. It was his funky throwing motion. It was the fact he played in a Mike Leach air raid system. They didn't know, if that translated. Like now they do. Like nobody bats an eye at that now. But it was those kinds of things. So I don't remember ever studying him or looking at his completion percentage, but I would guess right around 60, which is not good.
No, he was 56, 63, 65.
Okay.
So basically what you just said Milroe was when he came out his last year at 65. Yeah. And Patrick Mahomes in the NFL has never had a completion percentage higher than 67.
Yeah.
He's basically averaged out at about 65.
I would like you to answer this as a quarterback coach. And you kind of already did, because here's the thing. The thing with Milroe is you see the reps on tape. So it's not that he can't be accurate. And then also his deep ball, he's the best deep ball thrower in this draft. Todd McShay called him an elite deep ball thrower. And when he throws deep, for some reason, the mechanics are there. Like he strides into it. His footwork's good. It's balanced. It's almost teaching tape. It's the intermediate stuff. What I see is he stands flat-footed a lot, very robotic and mechanical. He doesn't get off his back foot like the way you see Quinn Ewers. No matter what Quinn Ewers is doing and what platform he's throwing off of, you saw it in the Gruden thing. They even talked about it. Like that back foot is never on the ground when he releases the ball. Like he's always, always, always in rhythm like that. So you see the reps there. It can be done. You can develop accuracy. I know you've already kind of answered this. I just wanted you to kind of maybe expand on that as it specifically relates to him and what you're seeing from him.
Yeah. So like for Milroe, the biggest thing is the same issue that there are for tons of college quarterbacks that play mainly out of the shotgun and the RPO system. You don't move your feet. Exactly what you said, Dan. So your momentum and that you get in your drop where you can create the ground force out of the throw, that's where you lose it when you're in these RPO systems. And that's where going under center and doing some of the things that Kubiak and getting a proper drop and doing those things will improve accuracy, because now you have momentum. Now you have timing. Now you understand how the ball is supposed to come out at a certain point with your reads. It can get better. And that's where you look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen went from being, again, a shotgun-based thrower at Wyoming to then being forced under center to have to run plays from under center. And now you see Josh Allen and he just drifts back there, reads the field, and throws.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I look at it and I go, like, yes, accuracy can get better in the NFL. It's multiple guys have proven. And this is one other thing I want to just say about Miller. Again, I agree with you. Second round pick makes some sense. His 2023 season where he ran, I think came up 6th in the Heisman voting, where he was in the Heisman race. His completion percentage was 65.8.
Yeah.
In 2024, it was 64.3.
And he got off to the great start in 24. And then,
but he threw more in 2024. In 2023, he threw 284 times. In 2024, he threw 319 with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah. Now, I do like the idea of taking a flyer on a quarterback later. In my final mock draft, I had Brady Cook. He's this guy that I really love, the demeanor, the attitude, the athleticism, the toughness. And I think he went out and helped himself at the combine. When Schneider said the thing that he did after the combine about how there were 2 quarterbacks, or maybe he said a couple of quarterbacks, so he might have meant more than 2, that threw the ball so well at the combine, it caused him to go back and look at the tape again. I thought one of the guys he was talking about was Cook, because I thought maybe he had the most consistent, and you could argue Emory Hunt said it on my show. He thought he had the best throwing session of anyone at the combine. But also Curtis Rourke is a guy that you and I have chatted about a little bit. I was talking to Corbin Smith about him today. He's a guy that I think if he doesn't have the ACL injury, that now we know he played through the entire season. That's insane to me. And still completed, upper 60% of his passes. That I've been told that they like him, that they have their eye on him, that he can make sense late in this draft, especially as a guy coming off an ACL, that you could basically redshirt, stick him on IR for a year and kind of see what you have in him, even though he's already just 4 months after ACL surgery, already doing drop backs, full 7-step drops without a knee brace. What do you think of Curtis Rourke?
I like Curtis Rourke. I, studied his brother a lot, because obviously his brother's the quarterback up here.
That's right.
For the BC Lions in the CFL, and he, went down to the NFL, but he was one of the best quarterbacks in Canada when he was, first in here. Curtis, again, I would be okay. Like, I have a 5th round grade on Curtis Rourke, so I think you can take him anywhere between round 5 and round 7. He's a guy that I agree with taking the approach of, hey, we're going to redshirt you, we're going to bring you in. He fits this system. Like, my comp for Curtis Rourke is Kirk Cousins. Same skill set, similar.
Yeah,
a little bigger, can move a little bit more, but the timing, the throws, very Kirk Cousins. He's intellectual that way. That's who I think I would be an ideal guy if they don't get someone early on, is to come back and pivot to Curtis Rourke.
Yeah, and I know if Cam Ward wasn't in this draft, I would say quickest release of anyone in this draft. But Ward is just like next level, like Dan Marino level quick release. Let's do this just to let everybody know. This is the schedule here on the show. Oh, let me get rid of this comment. The next couple of days. And I told you I would announce who my special guest will be. Well, Bryce will be right back here tomorrow night, as well as Michael Thompson, and might have a couple other guys pop in as well that we haven't finalized. I'll be going live at 4:45, 15 minutes before the draft starts, to kind of set the stage, catch up on any rumors or news throughout the day. And then Bryce and Michael, who's always done such a great job analyzing the draft as well, formerly for 12th Man Rising and now over at Field Goals. That'll be tomorrow. And then Friday, I'll also be live throughout the entire second and third round. And the boys from the Seahawks Playbook podcast will be on with me, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, on Friday. Can't wait to chat it up with those guys a little bit and get their insight. And then Saturday, no draft party. It's just too long. Nobody wants to watch that. But I'll do a full post-draft recap later that evening. As you sit here right now, if you had to put money on if the Seahawks stick at 18, who do you think they take?
If they stick at 18, I think if McMillan is there, they're taking
He
Tedero
won't.
McMillan. But
He won't.
if he is, that's who they are. Otherwise, I think they're taking Gray Zabel.
It's the Matt Miller report is hard to ignore. Now, well, then what would you say to fans then? Because I talked to a lot of them today when I put that out there, and then I put a quick reaction video up as well about just kind of reacting to that report. Excuse me. And there were I know fans are a lot more sophisticated these days. They study this stuff too. And they say, 18's way too high for Zabel. Small school guy, interior offensive lineman. I would hate that pick. What would you say to that?
I was one of the people that had the same kind of thought process. Like, and it wasn't that I hate that pick. It was more of a, can he do it consistently? Like, we've seen a guy that's played at a smaller school. He's only had the Senior Bowl week of going against higher level competition. Yes, I know he got offers to go and didn't. The thing I would say is, if we were talking about a left tackle, I would have more concern. We're talking about a guard who is in a point in a system where you're asking him to be, impactful, but not basically be stuck on an island. He's going to have a center and a tackle on either side. You can hide him a little bit if he struggles a little bit to a point.
No.
I think Gray Zabel struggling is still an upgrade over an Anthony Bradford.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that's where I look at, like, him struggling, I think is fine. Like, and that's where I look at. But if we were talking about, hey, Gray Zabel at left tackle, I'd be like, no. That's where I get a little bit more concerned.
He's not a left tackle in the league, although he can get you out of a game. Like, if you had to stick him out there, right? Here's the viewpoint I've had, and I used to think the same way. Like, I used to be so stuck on like what I perceived value to be based on big boards and consensus mocks and things like that, and I focus so much on, just like a lot of people do. I used to focus on reach. I remember the Bruce Irvin pick, and I thought, man, there were a lot of people that weren't even mocking him in the first round at all. That's a reach. I don't even have that word in my vocabulary anymore. I don't think there's any such thing. First of all, and Schneider kind of talked about this the other day in regards to trades, but I think it applies just when it comes to player evaluation. Analytics has become such a huge part of the game now, and every team has a different philosophy. They have different staffs. There was a report a month or two ago about each team's analytics staff, and like the Cleveland Browns have 11 people just working on analytics, where some other teams only have like 4, but still it's 4 people. And Schneider's talked about how that's kind of changed some of their approach to the draft. And so teams have different ideas from each other more than ever, where it used to be more groupthink. They used to use like the Blesto. They used to use these scouting combination services where they would all subscribe to the same service that would help kind of give them initial reports, and then they would branch off and do their own evaluations. And so to me, it's all about having conviction on a player. And if you're sitting at 18, to use the Seahawks example, I think it's a really good one. You're sitting at 18, then you have a bunch of draft capital later on, but not until 50. So that's a 32 pick span. So if you're stuck at 18, you try to move back and you can't find a taker, and there's a player that you absolutely have conviction on, more so than anyone else on your board. You look up at your board, that player's at number 1, and you know there's no way in hell he's going to be there at 50, then value goes out the window. There's no such thing as reach. You take the goddamn player that you have at the top of your board at 18, because you know you're not going to get him later. That's all that matters. And how many times have we seen the Seahawks take a player that the initial reaction from many people was, ooh, that seemed like a reach? This happened with Irvin. It happened with Jordan Brooks, and it happened with Rashad Penny. And then you find out the day after the draft, or even that night, oh, guess what? The team right behind them was going to take that player.
Yeah.
Happened with Devin Witherspoon too. The Lions were going to take him in a heartbeat if the Seahawks hadn't taken him at 5. So forget about reach. It's getting the players you want.
Well, and that's the thing. And that's where I think John's comments too were so interesting, where he said how they've had to push up linemen because of the lack of development, right? That's a huge, huge thing. And that's where I think you're right, Dan, to an extent. Like, you've got to be able to look at that and go, okay, this guy is someone we have conviction about. It's a need, and he's one of the better players available. And that's where that best player available versus need. Like, it also ties into how does this drop off? Like, if we take Tedero McMillan, what's the drop off from him to the next receiver? Is Golden and Mbuka off the table, and now we're dropping to Jaden Higgins on our board? Is that a substantial drop? Or, if we look at Gray Zabel and going from Gray Zabel to say like a Donovan Jackson or Tate Ratledge, what's that drop look like? And that's the thing you're weighing too, is what do you think the rest of the league's going to do? And that's where it gets really, interesting to say the least. I just was looking up here, Kurt Warner, who I follow, the ex-NFL quarterback.
Sure.
He put out this quote about 3 hours ago, and Kurt, I love watching his stuff. He puts up great stuff about quarterback play and mechanics and all that kind of stuff now. But he put out this and he goes, it's crazy looking at the top QBs in this draft in terms of snaps taken under center. Only 2 had over 20 snaps, with the most being 29. 2 teams that are looking for QBs, Pitt and Cleveland, with Stefanski calling plays and Arthur Smith, love to play with a QB under center. Does that affect draft? Do they simply take guys off traits and believe they can play under center? Definitely a different game under center, but just an interesting note.
I mean, I'd be interested, in your thoughts as a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator. Like, all of these guys start taking snaps as soon as the season ends. They take them at the Senior Bowl. They take them in their workouts. They take them, we see it. We saw it on the Gruden thing. Like, they're drilling that stuff every day. Can you ever remember a time where a quarterback just couldn't learn how to take snaps from under center and it affected his development?
I'm trying to think back to some of the quarterbacks that have been drafted, and there's a few that come to mind. Tim Tebow being one, but he had a whole bunch of other issues, but he really struggled from under center.
There was more going on there.
When I think of quarterbacks, even last year, Caleb Williams struggled playing from under center. And if you watch Chicago through that year after they went through the whole firing and all that, when Shane Waldron was initially his OC, he struggled. And then they moved to more of a gun base. You think about the game that Seattle played Chicago, he was mainly in the gun because it's what he's familiar with. And then you look at Jaden Daniels was able to convert because his first couple years at Arizona State, his head coach was Herm Edwards. So there was an NFL background there.
Right.
So he understood how to play from under center, and you saw the difference in his game. You look at guys that have had to do it throughout at points in the college career, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. When they finally got on the field, they were able to play a little bit faster.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, because when you look at guys that haven't, everything changes for you. Because, for example,
it's the read, right? It's not so much the mechanical, the footwork.
It's the read, and it's the footwork. It's how you time up everything and how in rhythm you can be. And do you have rhythm or a distinct rhythm? And that's the thing, is like, how do you move within the pocket? And the other thing to adjust to is play action. Because when you play action from under center, you are now turning your back to that defense for a second to a second and a half. And then you have to snap around and regain what that picture is. In shotgun, you're standing there with stagnant feet the whole time. Like, unless you get a little bit of a drop, you're standing there with stagnant feet. And so you've seen some guys be able to do it. Patrick Mahomes came from Cliff Kingsbury, and he was able to move into Andy Reid's system, but he sat a year. Jordan Love sat a year. Yeah. You look at some of the guys that have had to play right away, they've struggled when they've had to come from a purely shotgun-based college upbringing. Like, look at Marcus Mariota. Yeah. He's the guy that was a pure shotgun-based offense at Oregon, Heisman winner, barely made it through his rookie year. Jameis Winston has struggled at points. He, has gotten a little bit better, but he's still hit and miss. So you go back and you look at some of these quarterbacks and you look at how much they were doing it under center in college and how much, but then you look at a guy like Russell and a guy like Andrew Luck. When they came in the league, they had played in systems that had them under center, that were pro style, that were doing those things. They both flourished as rookies. And yes, I know RG3 had a good start to his rookie year until his injury. But those are the things you're looking at with these guys. Ryan Tannehill struggled. Ryan Tannehill came out of Texas A&M where he was in shotgun most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to play this. We were talking about it earlier, but I just didn't have it loaded up. These are just a couple of reps of Zabel at the Senior Bowl and some of his one-on-one work, offensive line against defensive line. Any concerns about the jump in competition from NDSU?
Well, this is him against Ty Robinson. Isn't that Ty Robinson? Yeah.
Could be a Seahawk too. They love him.
Yeah. see him as a guard, I don't have as much of a scare because it's a little bit more confined, and the guys he's going to be going up against, he probably is better athletically. It's when he's, even at center, but when you put him out at tackle, you look at his footwork being inside, it's much more controlled. When he was outside taking those reps as a tackle, you could see him being a little bit nervous out in that space, having that extra area for that guy to use his speed.
Yeah. I love that last rep against Wyatt Black out of Iowa, dude who's 340 pounds with like a 90-inch wingspan and is able, if he gets his arms locked on you, like it's over, and he sets his base. He's really, really stout. Now I find this interesting. So I mentioned earlier, like Femi Oladejo is one of my, like, no matter what Vontae Mack guys, right? Not just because of, I think the upside on the field, just 1 year as an edge after being a stack linebacker, which kind of almost makes him sort of a blueprint for a Mike McDonald sort of hybrid there, right? But also just his A+ character off the field, all that stuff, earning him the nickname of the mayor. But it's been said, and I said it myself during the week, and then in going back and watching practice footage, I realized it's an error. But Brian Baldinger even said it again yesterday on his Twitter feed. He said, Gray Zabel didn't lose a single rep at the Senior Bowl. He did. And one of the reps that he lost.
But I think he just gave us the chance to.
That's not him. Oh, I thought it was. Oh, shoot. I thought I had the video of it. I had a little thumbnail here.
He lost
a rep to Femi. Yeah. Yeah. He just kind of beat him on the outside a little bit with some speed. But, that's going to happen. Fine.
It'll be quite interesting to see if they take Zabel and in this scheme how he handles, just the jump to the NFL, because now you're jumping quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Let me just show the programming schedule once again before I let you go here. We'll wrap this up. We're almost at 3 hours with the watch party and everything. Live all throughout the first round tomorrow from 4:45 Pacific time on. Bryce and Michael will be joining for much of the first round. And then Friday, Bill and Keith from the Seattle Playbook podcast will be joining me as I will be live throughout all of the second and third round. And that's an hour earlier on the start time, so 3:45 Pacific time. And then Saturday, a full post draft recap after it is all said and done. And then just a reminder that as of Sunday at about noon, I'm off on a 4 or 5 day cross country road trip as we move to our next spot. But I will not just be dark for 4 or 5 days. I wouldn't do that to you or myself. I will be reacting to things like undrafted free agency and other roster moves that may happen in the few days after the draft, do some draft grades and kind of check in on what people around the league and around the country are saying as well. They'll just be hotel room episodes, without the green screen or a fancy background. And then once I get settled in at the new spot, we'll get some of the national broadcasters and beat writers and stuff on and get their reaction to how the roster looks after the draft. So I'm excited, buddy. Let's get some sleep and be back tomorrow and get this thing done.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
That's the wrong. I got to go out with some music. I hit the wrong. Until then, that's Bryce, Hawks Own Rundown podcast. Be sure to subscribe over there. They're now affiliated with the guys at Field Goals. And we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, forever and always, go Hawks. See you on draft day.